There's a lot to love about real estate. So, what does it look like to be a real estate agent in Colorado on one of the highest performing teams? Well, it's a lot of fun as well as a lot of work. Brandon is one of the team members who does consistent real estate updates, keeping clients informed on market changes.
Source and coming at you with another rooster. This is my weekly update segment, formerly known as The Reason That I Shave, but now that we're kind of back to work, keep it clean. How's it going? This is Brandon Griffin, aka The Realty Resource, bringing you another edition of The Rooster. It's my weekly real estate update, and we'll jump right into it. This is things related. We talked about showings coming back this week, and they are back, but they are not consistent. The guidelines are not consistent across any given municipality or city. It's a statewide order, and then every city and county can do whatever they want that's stricter, and many are. So it's run into this issue where if you're a seller, there's a liability if you allow showings and you're not supposed to. If you're a buyer, there's a liability if you do showings and you're not allowed to. So everyone's got to be doing their homework right now, and there's a lot of resources out there. We'll post a link to all the health areas that you can actually check for any given city or county if you want to see if you can actually do a showing. And then specifically, there are guidelines that we're using while we're doing showings. And that is, if you're going to do a showing, you can expect that it's only going to be you and maybe one other purchase participant and your agent. No extended family, no children. We're trying to keep it to 3 people. And then masks and gloves will be worn. If they're not provided by your agent, please bring some. And we're also supposed to actually clean it after we do the showing. So the hardest part about all this is that because there are no overlapping showings allowed, the showing times that we normally do in about hour chunks make it so that there's only maybe 4 showings, 5 showings available for any given listing. As such, you have to be able to move really quick. So if you like something, send it to your agent right away. Make sure they can book a slot. And instead of us working around our schedules and then booking it, we're booking it and then we're figuring out how we can make it work. So you got to be quick, and we got to be flexible in this time right now until things start to go back a little bit more to normal. So that's what's going on with showings. Real estate's coming back, which is great. We're seeing now that there are showings allowed, that we're seeing an uptick in everything. There was a great article today, or recently, by Matthew Gardner, who's the chief economist of Windermere, and he basically went through the entire breakdown of the former recession, the Great Recession, and kind of what's going on now, and tried to assess that same question that I've been getting a lot, which is, are housing prices going to drop? Is the market going to tank? And it's a new person saying essentially the same stuff, but if you like accents and fine art, and that makes you more credible, then you should definitely watch that. Otherwise, it's true, we're basically looking at different situation that's causing this. So likely to be a different result. However, we don't know because this is unprecedented territory that we're in. The mechanics that I've been talking about in my past videos still hold true. So if you really want to try to understand what everybody's doing to try to predict how the housing market's going to react, please take a look at those videos. And specifically, it all comes down to supply and demand. And the supply and demand is based upon, at least on the demand side, whether or not people can get loans, which is based upon the lending industry, which is, going through a liquidity crisis right now due to forbearance. So all of those videos I've recently recorded are what I'm looking at specifically to try to make an estimation of, will we see supply and demand shift dramatically, and if the prices will actually adjust. So you'll know for sure that if I see it coming, I'll be letting you know on these weekly videos. So please like, follow, subscribe if you want to keep up to date. If you're one of my clients, please let me know and I'll get you onto a program that will allow you to see your housing value every month so we can keep on top of your options. And actually that leads to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is options for financial hardship. So if you are one of the folks that is being dramatically affected by this, unfortunately, it's causing you to have to rethink, can I make my mortgage or my rent payment? I've done previous videos on what the very next steps are, and that's open communication, open that dialogue with those who you pay. But there's also a couple other options that we will explore in next week's video. Now I'm going to do a quick tip on looking at refinancing, because if you're looking at the Great Recession versus the Great Pause, it really, I mean, people have a lot more equity in their home right now. So they actually have a lot more options. A lot of people just don't know how to analyze their options or even begin to access, those options or that equity in order to help out with maybe monthly payments or refinance to lower your monthly payment. I just did a refinance and was able to drop $600 a month. So obviously helps out a lot. So look forward to a quick tip on how to figure out if you can refinance and tap into the equity and what you can do with it and how to shop different lenders, because not every lender is exactly the same right now in the situation that we're currently finding ourselves in. So moving on to the next thing, we are looking at likely future waves coming of infections and thus, lockdowns and various other things that we've been doing. And this is coming from, a recent study. Actually, it was Goldman and Sachs that was putting together. It's the 11th in a series, and they've got some really, really high-level speakers. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it as well. But it's likely that we're going to see waves returning as we all return to life and to work. And it's kind of a waiting game. This is new territory. It's hard to tell how this is going to affect us all. The vaccine research and the antibody testing is going in full force and making significant strides, but it's not going to, come to fruition fast enough. And so I think we're left in a situation where we're going to have to control what we can. And it's also something where we are going to be in a much better position if everybody takes the precautions, even if they don't think it's necessary, and does everything that they can possibly do, because what you do affects all of us and our ability to go back to normal, or what the new normal will be. So that, I know, is not necessarily real estate related, but truly it is, because if more waves come, it's going to affect businesses, jobs, financial development, obviously the economy, and thus the housing market. So looking a little bit further into what's happening now with Colorado businesses and the economy, the Secretary of State her most recent report basically came out and said that yes, we are seeing declines, and specifically, for the industries that we've all been talking about that were hardest hit, accommodations, bookings, hotels, travel, cruises, all that stuff, and then obviously the service industry. But there's also energy being hit really hard right now. So oil and gas is huge here in Colorado. It actually represents about 11% of all commercial real estate in Colorado is devoted to the oil and gas industry. So there's a lot of furloughs and layoffs happening there. It's hitting those people really hard. Also new entities, which make up the small businesses that we are creating, entrepreneurs and everyone coming into business. That employs a lot of people in Colorado too. So aside from people having lost jobs that existed, there's not as many jobs coming into existence. So both those things are going to affect, again, the demand side of things. And because of that too, there's a Cushman and Wakefield report, which I'll link, which is looking at, commercial real estate across all sectors is being strained right now. There's not as much demand, and the recovery is going to take a little while. So the nice thing about both the Colorado business perspective and the commercial real estate that is, related, is that we were in a much, much better place before all this started, I guess, versus the rest of the United States. And we're going to come out of it much, much stronger because of that. So, Colorado's just really, really well positioned for recovery. It still remains on the top of a lot of lists, and the reasons people come here are not changing as much as, they're not being affected as much by coronavirus. So job creation was a big driver of bringing people to Colorado, but the reason people are creating jobs here, those natural amenities, the lifestyle, the weather, all those things, they're not changing. So I really do think that we're going to be well positioned for a better recovery relative to the rest of the nation. I hope that all makes sense, and I hope that some of that was helpful this week.
Of course, updating clients is only part of the equation. Selling homes is a big part of it as well. Here is an important part of how the iMPACT team sells homes: client home videos.
Located on 5 acres in Coal Creek Canyon, this mountain paradise is surrounded by peace and serenity, just minutes from Golden Gate Canyon State Park. Take in the stunning mountain views and city lights from afar. Welcome to Little Dowdle. Let's have a look inside. The floor-to-ceiling windows fill this open floor plan with natural light. The chef's kitchen with soapstone counters and stainless steel appliances, a floor-to-ceiling rock fireplace, and deck off the living room make this home perfect for relaxing or entertaining. 2 additional bedrooms with separate vanities and a Jack and Jill bathroom on the main level. Upstairs, a spacious master bedroom with private deck and 5-piece luxury bathroom with walk-in closet. You'll love working from home with 2 large private offices boasting mountain views that are sure to inspire. This can also serve as a playroom or easily be converted into a 4th bedroom. 2-car attached garage and a 2-car detached garage with half bath and loft area. The home has radiant floor heating, a whole home generator, and high-speed fiber internet. With easy access to Denver or Boulder, this masterpiece is truly one of a kind. If you have questions about this home or want to see it for yourself, give me a call. This is Colorado living at its finest.
This home is a perfect paradise in Wycliffe that is uniquely set apart from the rest. From the world-class granite in the gourmet kitchen and wet bar to the lushly wooded backyard. Welcome to Otis Drive. Come on in. Starting upstairs, the master bedroom is a one-of-a-kind with French doors and vaulted ceilings. The huge ensuite 5-piece bath with custom tile gives you your very own spa, and the massive walk-in closet with custom shelving ensures you never have to fight for space for your shoes or clothes. 3 more bedrooms, one with a bay window looking out at the mountains, rounds out the upstairs. Now let's take a look at the downstairs. Downstairs, you'll find an open floor plan with a sitting room, formal dining room, family room with a gas log fireplace and surround sound, and a private office with French doors. The kitchen has everything you were looking for. New stainless steel appliances with gas cooktop, island, level 6 rated solid granite countertops, eat-in kitchen space, and a work desk to quickly take care of those odds and ends. The kitchen flows seamlessly into the lush backyard, boasting an oversized Trex deck, ample trees and shade, outdoor Bose system, and a designated play area and festoon lights. The fully finished and permitted basement has a wet bar with a fridge and an amazing game room space for playing pool. So if you have any questions or would like to see the home in person, please reach out to me at this number. This is exactly why we live in Colorado.
Sitting on a quiet cul-de-sac and close to Hidden Lake, this stunning ranch property is filled with upgrades, options, and style. Welcome to this beautiful home. Let's have a look. There's tons of natural light that spills into the large open concept floor plan. The kitchen boasts tons of countertop space, new stainless steel appliances, ample storage with oversized cabinets, and an eat-in kitchen. The kitchen is open to both the family room and the formal dining room. All main level bedrooms are nicely spaced, giving residents tons of privacy on one floor. The massive covered back deck overlooks the built-in brick grilling area and privacy fence in your backyard. Downstairs is full of upgrades as well. With the remodeled space, you have additional bedrooms, making this a 5-bed home, and the semi-finished space is perfect for a family room, play area, or theater room. Need more space? You have a terrific oversized 2-car garage. Keep costs low with the brick and new stucco. So if this home could be a good fit for you or someone you know, give me a call and come discover exactly why we love living in Colorado. How do clients find the iMPACT team? One way is through training for sellers, investors, and buyers. This is an example of the training done for sellers. Sit back, relax, and learn, because this overview will take you through every step of the selling process.
We're gonna actually go through the entire seller's class in modules. So each video will be anywhere from a couple minutes to 15-20 minutes long as a part of my series called Too Much Info. So I make some shorter ones that are just quick tips. This, however, is getting down into the details and basically teaching you everything you need to know if you're thinking about selling, if maybe it's been a little while. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit about what we'll cover today. We will cover a little bit about who we are, our team and our brokerage, and why you can trust the things we tell you. We'll back everything up with data too. Then we'll get into the what and the why, basically your motivation for selling or for moving. I think it's a really, really important place to start, because if you start there, then you can save yourself a lot of trouble. We'll go through some common questions and we'll hit some market trends there too. Then we'll jump into the process. So the process of how specifically to prepare your home for listing. It's got 3 different phases. I would say preparing is the first, and then actually selling your home, actively marketing it and waiting for an offer, and then closing your home once you have that offer. And finally, the rest of it will be just some pro tips from us that didn't necessarily fit anywhere else, but we feel are really important. All right, let's begin. A little bit about what we do. So we do sale, purchase, investment, management, and consultation. And we've been number 1 in the office. At least in our old office, we were number 1 for 3 years running. And now in the new office, it's a little bit larger. We're 750 agents. So we're the number 2 team. But we got our eyes on the prize, and we're gunning for that number 1 spot. So 5280 has recognized us every year as a 5-star professional. And the Wall Street Journal has ranked us within the top 1,000 teams in America. So it's a pretty good group of people. I gotta admit, it's really fun to work with these folks. They all come from different backgrounds, and that's one of the things that really benefits us. Is between all of us, there's over 75 years of experience, and honestly, there's nothing that we haven't faced together. So we've done, I think this number's over 1,500, but we'll have to double check and update it. About 1,250 transactions at this point. Again, we're top 1% in the nation as voted by Zillow and Trulia, and that's for both volume and customer satisfaction. And about 85% of our business is referral. So the classes like this are usually, someone tells someone about it and then they come. And now that it's digital, you can check it out online. So that was my whole goal with this. So our culture is just really phenomenal. We really enjoy, I think it's because we have so much referral business. We really enjoy our clients and the people that we work with, and so they send us other people that we really enjoy, and all of this just turned out to be really great. So we do this is a picture of one of our appreciation events. This is a Rockies game. We also do a movie where we rent out a couple different theaters and invite all of our past clients. We do some barbecues, some happy hours. And then there are the classes that we teach. The seller's class I teach in the springtime, and that's because that is the best time to sell. We'll get into that a little bit later. I teach a buyer's class in the fall, best time to buy. And then we also have an investor's class that we teach somewhere around the winter time. And we do a couple philanthropic events. There's a Habitat event or a local volunteer event. And then we also do an impact trip as often as we can. And with that trip, we basically go to somewhere in the world that needs some help, and we try to help out and also have a good time. We invite all of our past clients. We don't pay for airfare, but we get really good bookings, group bookings. And so those have been a lot of fun. And Your Castle, the brokerage that we're at, they are really, like I said, the local data experts. There's really nothing that you can, no question that you could ask that they can't answer with data. And that's really, really helped our agents to be able to help and inform our clients as they, try to make these bigger decisions. So they also have won a lot of awards and accolades, which I should probably put in here. I don't know why I didn't. They also have won a lot of awards and accolades, which I don't have listed here because the class was long enough. So we'll just go ahead and move on to the next thing. All right, so let's jump in and start by talking about what is important when selling your home. We didn't necessarily come up with these questions. We hear them every day and we have our own opinions. We actually let our clients determine what was most important to them. So we queried all of our past clients and even some of the people that haven't done anything yet. And for those folks, we wanted to see what is most important to you. What would be your biggest concern? What question do you most want answered when coming to selling your home? And this is what they came up with. So the number one question that came up, the highest percentage of responses, was how do you maximize your net profit? How do you get the most amount out of your home during a sale? The next thing was, what's a general process? How does it work? There's a lot of first-time sellers, they've never been through it. So they want to know, where do you start? Where do you go next? Listing preparation came in third, and then we have costs, which are obviously what are the costs to sell. Valuation, how do I get the correct value for my home? How do I find the replacement home, and how do I move into that replacement home at the same time? Market and timing, so what's the market doing right now? Marketing and staging, how do you really present it well and shed a good light on it? And then renting, taxes, for sale by owner, those all kind of fell into the last category. But what you can see here is that really I put dollar signs on the ones that have to do with how do you maximize your net profit, and I put question marks on the ones that have to do with process. And so therefore, what we're really trying to do with this class, if you watch this entire series, is answer these three questions. Can I achieve my goals by selling? Is it worth it? So that's really the motivation piece that we're going to get into first. How do I get the highest net profit, which really takes into consideration all of those things with dollar signs on them. And then where do I start and what do I do? And so that will be the process, and we'll walk through it step by step. All right, let's begin. All right, let's get started here. All right, we're looking at the selling process from start to finish. In this video, I will cover phase one, which is preparing your listing. Honestly, this is where most of the work is done and most of the time is done. And then we have phase two, which is selling, which is marketing your property and waiting for an offer. And then finally, phase three, which is closing, once you've found the offer. Phase one consists of an evaluation of your situation and the value of your home. Then strategizing, coming up with a plan, prepping the property, and finally capturing it in its best light and comparing it to your competition to make any necessary adjustments to the price or the condition before you jump on the market to be most successful. Once you're on the market, phase two selling is marketing, doing your showings, making any adjustments while that's going on, and reviewing offers as they come in. Finally, closing is negotiation, inspection, appraisal, and then the actual closing itself. And each phase has its own timeline, and each one is variable. So prepping, I've had some clients that have, I would say that the quickest that I've ever seen this happen from start to finish is 1 week. And that would be getting an all cash offer and no property preparation. And I've seen people prep for far too long. And then the sale process typically, depending on the time of year, can take anywhere from, I would say, 45 days, a week or so of marketing, and then 30 days to close, to a more average, 60 days. So that's pretty good for our market right now as of 2020. All right, preparing your listing. So this again is going to be the most not complicated. This is going to be the longest section because there is the most to do when you prepare. All right, first thing is evaluation. What's your home really worth and what can you get? You can never do this too early. So if you're thinking about selling in a year, you could be doing this right now, getting your information and figuring out what projects you need to take on, and then take them on at your speed. All you need is a great agent. So budgeting is the first thing. For budgeting, what we're thinking about here is basically coming together on all the numbers. One of the first things we do is we, as a lifelong trusted consultant, will come over and at any time give you ideas of what projects are going to have a better than dollar for dollar return and what won't. So in that way, you can kind of get an idea of the preparation costs and factor that into the total budget. Then we can help you to determine a sale price and any sale costs, and give you a net sheet, which is a net proceeds sheet from the sale, which will tell you exactly how much will be in your pocket at the end. Then we can kind of give you an idea of any repairs or concessions that might happen, or at least the most common ones, and how much to budget for that. Then we actually look at your qualification for the new purchase and the new purchase price. And going through all of that helps you to really see the end of the road, which I think if you do that all the way at this step, you will have a much more successful outcome. Earnest money is involved in the purchase part, and then you've got closing costs as well. Then you have the appraisal on the buy side, any carrying costs that you might have if you are going to make one move and potentially have two properties at the same time. Moving costs, if you're paying movers or anything like that, furnishing a new home. And finally, your home budget, which is more the furnishings and everything you need for the new place. So there's a lot of numbers to take into consideration, but if you do all this up front, you'll have a very, very good result, no surprises, and everything hopefully will go very smooth. First things first, the price of your home. Very, very easy to jump online and see some of these automated valuation models, AVMs as we call them. Zestimate being the biggest one, and think, okay, this is what my home is worth. I'm going to use this number to start as the backbone of my budget, but it's not the best way to go. At an agent will do a comparative market analysis for you. They should do it for free. We do them for free as a part of our consultation. And what you can see here is this AVM, right? So this computer trying to do a person's job, it's going to take into consideration square footage, bed bath count, lot size, and everything's coming off the public record. Off-market and distressed listings, if they're incorporated, are not necessarily incorporated in the right way, so can throw things off. What they miss, what automated valuation models miss, are your updates, your condition, your competition, your financials specifically, and the market conditions. So it might be a good jumping off point, or it might be a good place to start just to see, but if you really want to figure out if moving is right for you, you should definitely engage an agent to do a comparative market analysis for you. What you can see here is one single property and all the different valuation models that it had. So it had 415, 455, 235, and the house actually eventually sold for 390. So if you were budgeting on any of those numbers, you would have been either terribly disappointed in the end in both cases, or one of them you probably wouldn't have even started. It would have been a non-starter. So with a 6 to 40% margin of error, just get some help. I promise you, there's no obligation, it's free. This is what we do every day. It's our job. And our seller's consultation, a little bit about how that looks. This is not your typical just free home value estimate. I mean, you'll see those in the mail all the time, or you'll hear about it on the news. That is not what we like to do. We also don't do a listing presentation. It's not, you need to, do this and we need to help you. Basically what we do, iMPACT is here to provide you with all the information you need to decide for yourself if selling is right for you. So it starts by contacting an agent, and then you complete a phone questionnaire. It takes about 10 minutes. Then you receive and review our 2020 Seller's Guide. I'll update that. And you complete the homework section, which is very, very easy. It's just answering a few questions about that property and a few things that you need to do anyway if you wanted to sell it. None of that should take more than 20-30 minutes. Then our in-home consultation takes about an hour. Discuss how to prepare your listing for maximum return on investment. Again, we'd walk around and I would point out only the projects that have a better than dollar for dollar return. And if you're thinking, I have to redo the floors, I have to do this, a lot of times I'm telling people don't do it. In this marketplace, you don't need to, and you will not see the money back. So that's one of the ways that we save people money even before we're ever engaged by them or actually officially working for them. So, and it's actually one of the biggest savings too. So we'll discuss the best timing for the sale. Timing can be one of the biggest parts of the strategizing, making sure that everything is just locked into the way that you want it. We know exactly when we're going to hit the market. We have plan A and plan B. We'll go through a comparative market analysis and look at the value of your home now. And if we're not going to list the property for 3 months, we're going to do another comparative market analysis when you do actually list. And then we'll finally go boil it all the way down to net proceeds, looking at all of the costs, including the commissions. And only when you're comfortable will we move forward from there. The next step is to do a lender consultation, and that is taking the net proceeds number, going to a lender, and discussing the budget for a comfortable replacement home. So you could actually start from what you're going to make and what you want to spend, and work your way into a number for a price range for your new home. And then we can actually go out there and show potential properties that would replace yours. Because quite frankly, just knowing how much your home is worth is definitely not the entire picture. Knowing how much it's worth and how much you're going to spend during the entire process is a little bit closer. Knowing how much that can afford you and staying within a comfortable monthly budget is the next step. But then finally, you got to get out there and see the homes. Because if you walk in and this solves all my issues, like this is the next step for me, that's when you know it's a go. And so at that point, we'll put together a game plan on how to get there. And then finally, get to work. So only after you've really understood for yourself whether or not selling makes sense, would you ever sign anything with any of our team members. And it's an agreement to then continue to work forward with us. We can engage our contractors to help you get some stuff done on the preparation of your home. We'll be doing basically just getting everything going. So you have options. So also the other thing we'll discuss during that strategy is should you keep your old home and rent it out? I do a quick tips video on this one that talks a little bit about what to consider if you are considering keeping your house and renting it out. But you do need to come up with essentially the rental rates, your cash flow projection, your loan qualification preparation, that is, can you afford both mortgages, and how do you do that? It's a lifestyle consideration as well. There's some emotional components as well as, tolerance. If you can't tolerate tenants, it's probably not the right thing. Management costs, if you want to do it, but then you don't want to deal with the tenants at all. And then for your replacement options, you definitely need to calculate your net proceeds to see where the down payment's coming from. The loan qualification is the biggest part. You probably will need a signed lease on the old property before you actually qualify for the new one. And we cover all that in the consultation. And then basically we would set up an MLS search and start doing some showings. So that's knowing your options. Again, we have actually had many of our clients who were first-time home buyers then become instead of first-time home sellers, they actually didn't sell, they rented their house out, so now they are starting to build a portfolio for passive income, and then they moved up to the new property by using the equity in their old one. So this is a real quick look at some figures that you need to take into consideration, because again, if you just know how much your home is worth, that does not answer the question. Everything you see here with $2 signs next to it is a savings opportunity. So a great agent is going to be able to guide you in such a way that you're either going to save money or make more money. For the initial sales price, a great agent's going to be able to get you more. For the preparations and repairs, they'll save you money. For the real estate commissions, any agent that's worth their weight is going to pay for themselves and then some. In terms of staying away from seller concessions, keeping you from having to pay for anything for your buyer, the appraisal, if it needs to be negotiated, title insurance, the loan payoff is subjective cost, it's how much you owe on your mortgage. Carrying costs and maintenance, that's something that an agent can help you with, transfer fees, and any transaction fees or prorations. So I would say a comfortable number to go from your sales price to your net proceeds is probably 7 to 8% with repairs and those things in mind, as long as it doesn't need a ton of work. And then from your net proceeds, there are tax considerations. So, that's something that we'll talk about. If you do need to rent back, that could cost money, or you could basically get an agent to negotiate a free rent back if you need that time in your house to find your new place. And then on your new purchase, there's cost involved. So you have earnest money, which is just a part of your down payment. And again, the new purchase, we would be negotiating the best price for you. Then you have your closing costs, which are kind of mostly the cost to get the loan. Your down payment, which is again subjective. Loan origination, inspection, appraisal, moving costs, move-in money. So I would say on average, you're probably going to be looking at about 6 to 7% of your purchase price there. So in total, it's quite a bit more than 6%. It's really, you want to get a scope of all of the different costs like we had talked about before. And I really think it's good to see how often a great agent is going to save you money within those. So the agent typically only gets paid about 3%. And so what you can see here is that there's a lot of opportunity for them to save well more than they charge you. There you go. A great agent will save much more than they charge. Choose wisely. Strategizing. I think coming up with a game plan and a backup plan is one of the most important things. Again, never too early to do it, and during your seller's consultation with your financials, knowing exactly how much you owe on your mortgage, utilities, HOA, that's what you need to complete this step. And planning really just comes down to, how is it all going to work? What does a timeline look like? What is your listing and marketing strategy? Are there any ownership issues? What's the occupancy plan? The replacement search, how's that going to go? How's it going to go if it doesn't go as well as you expect it to? So we'll do a little bit of risk analysis, market analysis, and then some pricing strategy on your property. All of that is something that we help our clients do every single day. And in terms of order of operations, so if you own a home, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people think, okay, I have to sell my home and I have to buy a new home, but how would I go about, doing that if I need a place to live, right? And I don't want to be homeless. I think a lot of people think their home is going to sell in a weekend and it's going to take them 6 months to find something. So there is the simultaneous approach all the way over here on the right. Oops. And what this says is basically that you're going to move once, but you're going to do it simultaneously. So the pros are that you have low or no carrying costs, so you don't have to pay for 2 mortgages at once. It's easier to do in a seller's market, which we are currently in. We'll get to that in a second. And you only have to move once. Now the cons are that you have a contingent offer, meaning that when you're out there in the marketplace trying to shop for a new house, which typically you'll do before you've sold your new one, you are going to be a little less competitive, and you need a good agent to be able to deal with that. You are subject to the market, so if it's hard to sell, it's going to be easy to buy, and if it's easy to buy, it's going to be hard to sell. So those things happen at the same time, and it's a shorter time frame on all this. So that's a con or pro. Sometimes people do feel a little rushed, but as long as you have the plan in place, you know what's coming, then that helps to alleviate that. But there are other options. You can actually, all the way on the left here, sell first. The pros there, you have a liquid down payment available for your purchase. You have no contingencies for your very competitive offer, and you can usually negotiate a better price on your new property, your replacement property. And you can time the market. So you can sell when it's right to sell and buy when it's right to buy. Now the cons are you have to move twice, and you need someplace to go. And then buying first, you can do that too. You can basically just wait for the motivation until you find the right home and be casually searching while you're living in your home. Then you can actually purchase that property. It allows you to time the market, so you can buy when it's advantageous and you can sell when it's best to sell. You move once, and then the cons are that you must have the equity and or you must qualify for a bridge loan. So you got to be able to qualify for both mortgages. And when I say you need your financials to really plan this all out, you need to know how long could you take on 2 mortgages. So know your carrying costs and pad your budgets. And finally, do know that if you're selling your home in a simultaneous situation, you can make finding a suitable replacement a requirement of selling your home. Whereas if you do not find your replacement home, then you can actually tell the buyer, I'm not going to sell anymore because I did not find a suitable replacement. That is something where you can protect yourself from becoming homeless. Pricing strategy. What a home is worth is what a buyer's willing to pay and a seller's willing to accept in today's market. So the market will ultimately determine your price. Now, the agent that you choose has a lot of influence over that. However, we are squarely in the camp of we will never disappoint someone. We will never buy a listing by telling you it's worth more than it actually is. We will tell you what it's worth. If you want to go higher than that, we'll tell you probably what will happen and how that'll affect your plan. And if it's within the realm of possibility within our minds, then we'll accept moving forward with a plan in place to drop the price if we're not meeting your goals in a certain amount of time. We will help you come up with a conservative baseline at this stage, and then we'll review it before listing. So during planning, we'll come up with a number that makes sense, that causes you to feel comfortable about moving forward, and then put in all the work. And then as soon as we get to the time that we're listing, we'll review that number. And a lot of times that gets better because of the work that you did and maybe the time that's passed. There's 2 different pricing strategies. One is traditional, which is basically you put out the highest price that you could possibly think the market would support and you wait. This is definitely good to use for the slower time of the year. Anywhere from, honestly, our market starts to stagnate around July 4th, and then in the fall and winter, it's better just to get, ask what you would like to get. Maybe even a little bit more, because price drops are not as, they're not perceived as negatively at that time of year. And it's a little bit more straightforward. You do have less buyer's remorse from the people that are coming in because the price is what you see is what you get. The cons are you have less ability to negotiate terms because we're probably dealing with one buyer at a time. It can take longer and cause a negative stigma if you're doing it the wrong time of year, and it can be more of an appraisal risk if you're basically trying to get more than the market has ever delivered before, more than the neighborhood supports. Then there's energy pricing. So energy pricing is essentially pricing it low or directly in the heart of the market during a time of low inventory to get a bidding war going on. And that bidding war will typically drive it above the price that you actually wanted and potentially give a little bit more data to support the highest property price in the neighborhood so far. So you can often negotiate all desired terms in addition to price because you have many buyers competing, and when they stop being able to compete on price, they start competing on terms. Taking it as is, guaranteeing the appraisal, giving you as much time as you want to rent back, and those are incredibly valuable. So we'll talk about exactly how much that's worth. It is nearly impossible to underprice a home with enough time. So if you put a home up at $1, the auction effect, you'll have enough people come in because it looks like an incredible value, and it will drive the price up to the market price. So there are caveats here, and each situation is different. I know that if other agents are watching this, they might beat me up about this, but it's basically, if you're going to underprice the home and use the energy pricing strategy, you want to make sure that you have enough time. List it on a Thursday, maybe do a coming soon, go all the way through the weekend, and then review your offers on Monday or Tuesday so that you have a full weekend with nice weather where you have maximum exposure to the listing. The cons are there's serious risk of buyer's remorse in this case. If you get buyers competing, sometimes they just at this point are bidding to win, and if they're doing that, they might put out a number that they can't actually back or don't want to. And it only works in low inventory environments. So luckily, that happens to be what we're in right now in Colorado. So in our seasonality, this is very, very much dependent. Which strategy you use is dependent upon what season we're in. In the springtime, we have very low inventory, but we do have the highest showing traffic because we have a lot of buyers out there trying to beat the rush. We have the most bidding wars, and we have more competition for buyers. So buyers, this is not the best time for you to be out there. During the summer, we have more inventory, so more choices for buyers. We also have more buyers. We have the highest prices of the year. They tend to peak in June and July. And there is more competition for sellers because everyone's kind of on the same boat. Kids are out of school and they're all doing the same thing. So that's why right around July 4th is when our market tends to stagnate, and there then becomes a weight of sellers, and the buyers tend to leave the marketplace. They get hot, they get bothered, they go on vacation, and the sellers start to compete. And then winter, we have very low inventory, very few buyers, lowest prices of the year, and less competition for both buyers and sellers. And this is relatively speaking. So the prices tend to drive up in the springtime, then they settle they peak in the summer, and then they tend to come back down every single year in the winter. And they come down just enough so that your average appreciation across the entire year is the difference between your baseline in the spring and where it dropped down to in the winter. And then it'll go back up the next spring. So let's look at the market data rather than me just telling you things. We can actually take a look at it. So what you can see here is the early spring listings. They sell quickest across all prices. Again, they have the most showing. So what is here on the top left is the days on market. So how long did it take it to sell? And it's broken out by price, where you can see the starter homes down here are selling very, very quickly. These are the properties that all the news and media channels are talking about selling in a week. Now you do have these properties over $1 million, which represent our luxury market, and they are taking typically 80, 90 days all the way through the year. So that's just a much more typical time frame for those. And then over here you can see that the late summer listings typically need price reductions. So as we get to that July time frame, once the sellers are competing and the buyers are kind of out of the game, or at least not as interested as they were before, then the sellers have to compete. So in order to sell, if you want to be the one that actually does sell, you have to start dropping your price. And you can see here that this is when typically the price reductions start. And then down here, we don't have as many price reductions. There's just not as much inventory. Now, if we're looking at the market peaking in April most years, this is looking at the sold price versus the asking price. So are they getting more than they're asking for or less? And it's broken out again by price. So you can see typically, first of all, our first-time home prices are getting almost always more than they're asking for. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're selling. It's good to expect that you're going to, if you price it right, probably get your asking price or even more, but only if you price it right. You can still overprice it, and that's when you will get less than you're asking for. Then if you go up into the luxury market typically people are negotiating lower prices. So keep that in mind when you price it. I mean, if you do overprice there and you have to drop the price, it's a little bit more of a norm, right? And so there you go. Luxury listings almost always get less than asking. Then by July, 1/3 of all listings will need a price reduction to sell. So here you can see the percent with the price reduced. And right there, right about July 4th, every single year, that's when those price reductions start. And so anytime after that, I would say, especially in that September, October, November timeframe, doing a price reduction doesn't really have a negative stigma. the best way to go is to price it right from the beginning, so you don't have to drop the price and you can complete your goals in a timely manner. But if you have to, it's not so uncommon to do it anytime. Really, the only time you don't want to be dropping the price is February, March, April, May, June, right? So that's when most of them are not dropping prices. So our consultation, no sugarcoating. We're never going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you what you need to hear, and then we're going to deal with it. We guide the process, and you control the decisions, and you can cancel at any time for any reason. So if the plan makes sense, I know this is a long video, but it's all about coming up with a plan that makes sense for you, and we've just talked about all the considerations. If you want us to help you specifically come up with your plan, then we're happy to do that. We'll basically come and do the consultation as described earlier and get a plan going for you, and if it makes sense for you, only then do you sign anything to agree to work with us. And again, you can cancel at any time. We simply ask that if we're going to be honest and open with you, you're open and honest with us, and in that way, if something's not going right or not meeting your expectations, we have the ability to fix it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop here, and then we will jump back in a second with property preparation. All right, we are back, and now we're talking about property preparation. So I know I took some time to go over that planning phase, but or the planning portion, and really that is all just strategy. That's just making sure that everything that you're about to take on makes sense. And that's why I think it's important. Don't do this work unless you know it's going to work. Pun intended, I suppose. All right, so now we're talking about property preparation, actually diving in. So the timeline is long enough to complete all the projects that we decide it makes sense for you to complete. Again, we're oftentimes taking projects off people's list. That's why we really want to meet with them before they even lift a single finger, right? I often get to a place where people have already dumped thousands into it and they did not increase their retail or resale value at all. So we can see through clutter, we can see through anything. Please bring us in early, we'll come up with the plan, and then we'll execute. So now we need enough time to get the job done. You need a plan, you need great contractors, you need time, and you need knowledge, and we'll help you with all that. So is it worth it? You can sell honestly, you can sell any property in 24 hours for a low enough price, but that usually isn't the right option for most people. However, we are starting to see a little bit more of this happening with what's called iBuyers. So Opendoor, Zillow, Redfin, they will all buy your house outright in cash, and you'll hear it all over the news and the radio. And we will talk about that. That's in the last section of this class, we talked specifically about the benefits and the drawbacks. They will give you an all cash offer at a certain price right now. So that is an option, and we actually tell our clients to go ahead and get their offer too, so they can compare it side by side and know, all right, if you didn't want to do a single thing, what could you get? And then we'll show you what the work that you're going to put in is worth. And it might be honestly the best dollar per hour activities that you've ever engaged in. So we most often have folks do a few things with some help to get their listing ready. So some things we'll do a little bit of also take it all on in chunks. That's one of the things I put in here. It can seem like a lot at first, but just plan it out and take as much time as you need, as long as it fits within your plan. Pre-inspections are one thing we might do here, where we might take a look and try to see what's coming down the pike when it comes to the inspection that the buyer's going to do. We can get bids for all major repairs. We might have to deal with some issues around permits and codes. Most of it, in fact, probably 90% of it's decluttering. Staging comes in only if we don't have enough stuff to really make the house and the listing really shine. Deep cleaning is definitely something that we suggest. In fact, we suggest it so often we provide it as a part of our commission, or at least I do. I'm not going to speak for every one of my team members, but and then having a preparation strategy, again, just having that plan and being able to execute. So taking a look, decluttering and staging, very top thing that we deal with most often. And some good tips here are to do 5 items or less on any horizontal surface. That could be a real challenge. Give buyers space to imagine their belongings in any given room. So if there's too much furniture or the furniture is too big, and there couldn't be an easy process for that buyer to kind of think, oh, maybe the bed would go there, or maybe I'd also put this here, then you want to remove the furniture that is keeping them from doing that. Because once they move in mentally, that's when you can start to really negotiate and start thinking to get an offer out of them. Also, know that as you're decluttering, you're gonna be moving anyway. It's almost guaranteed in our market right now that if you put it up for the right price and work with the right agent, you will be sold, so you might as well start packing. This is an example of actually virtual staging. So in an empty space, especially one that's nondescript, this is a loft downtown in Capitol Hill, and it's hard to tell what goes where, and it kind of just looks like one room. So with virtual staging or real staging, this one happens to be actually virtual. So this is a Photoshop picture with all the furniture in there, and we did several different rooms broken up out of this one loft. That's an option for sure. And like I said, real staging is an option as well. It can be a little bit costly, but when it's necessary, we will let you know. Deep cleaning immediately before the pictures, that's the part that we provide. And we also provide the best pictures possible, which you'll see in a second. Professionally cleaning the carpets, removing any bad smells. This is really important. And then, let's see here. Oh, I guess that's about it for staging. I just mentioned everything there. All right, so for repairs and upgrades, some simple tips. If it's distracting, fix it. If it's scary, explain it. In the same vein, as your buyers are moving in mentally, you do not want to stop them from that process. So as they're looking around your house and kind of imagining themselves in it, if there's some big crack in the wall or something like that, they're gonna stop in their tracks and start to think, oh man, this is not, the dream that I have in my mind, this is a project. So if there are things that are scary, we want to explain them ahead of time. And if they're distracting, we want to get them fixed if it's reasonable. There's also, this picture just shows you a little bit about, sometimes you don't even know what is possible. Now, this is a full remodel of a kitchen, which we actually really are not suggesting very often to be done unless, that was the whole intention and this is a flip. However, it's to illustrate that sometimes you don't even know what's possible without the help of someone who's been there before. So the other thing we can do too with these repairs is we can kind of help you before having to call in any extra contractors to know whether it's really a serious issue or not. Is this crack a bad thing? Should I fix this leak? Should I patch that hole in the wall? And then with the upgrades, we again are going to try to let you know what you should do and how much it will return. So will it increase your price? Will it not? Will you need permits to do it? And who will help you do it? We can answer all those questions for you. Some of the upgrades with the highest ROI, kitchens and baths. So that one, I would say it's kind of a cascading effect. If you're gonna do one, you kind of wanna do them all, or at least all the ones on the same level to get, because if you just do one master bathroom and then all the rest of the bathrooms are completely dated, it's not really gonna change the big picture of the property, right? It's not gonna, the buyers will walk in and see the updated master, fall in love, walk downstairs, see a few different bathrooms that are not updated, and that it'll just be a mixed bag for them. So you want a complete picture, and so they do have good return on investment. However, it can be costly. A lot of times we might be suggesting just to spruce it up a little bit. Curb appeal is really important. So things like replacing doors or taking off storm doors, paint for sure, and landscaping are all very, very important and usually have a better return on investment than any other project around. And then obviously new paint, that was just mentioned. That usually is super, super easy to do. Same thing with new carpet. If the carpet's really old, it's going to present the picture of a fixer-upper. Whereas if you just put new carpet and new paint in it, that could be enough to be like, this is move-in ready and you can charge much more than you're spending. Okay, depersonalizing. This is really important. It kind of goes along with staging a little bit, but if you have any items in your home that are potentially polarizing, you want to remove them. This could be anything that has to do with politics, religion, taxidermy, all those things. I would suggest taking them down. And avoid displaying more than 5 family photos per room. There's some really beautiful collages that I've seen that were 40, 50 pictures and really well done. However, as soon as there's that many pictures of somebody else's family, again, that buyer's journey of moving into your home mentally and the thing that's taking them from maybe to an offer, it gets disrupted. They will not write the offer if they can't see themselves living there. And boring is good. You want things to pop but really the more boring and the more clean it is, the more that they can really see themselves there. So we'll talk more about that in a staging consultation should we need to. We also do provide a staging consultant. Now, I am not necessarily the best at that, so I call in professional help and I pay for that out of my commission. Capture and compare. So this usually happens 1 week before we're listing the property. And what you need is a great agent. You need a fresh CMA, meaning a new comparative market analysis with your new competition if it's been a little bit and you've been doing some prep or waiting. You need a listing agreement and the required disclosures and a contract advisor. So we'll talk about all of that. But this is basically when you're getting ready to list and actually signing the official contract paperwork. So I call it the final countdown. It's basically time to prove that everything that you did was worth it. And I love that little lady right there. All right, so step 1 is you contact your impact agent at least a week. I usually like 2 weeks ahead of when you're planning on being done with all the projects or your list that you've decided upon. And in that way, we can go ahead and get the ball rolling. We're going to schedule the final cleaning. And then that happens right before the pictures are taken. So we hire both of those and pay for them out of our commission. They're the best pictures that you can possibly get. Your impact agent will then sit down and review the pictures with you and run a new comparative market analysis, because now you can literally see your house all cleaned up exactly as it would be marketed against everything else on the market. Because if you had come up with a price and that price was, let's say, $250, and now everything on the market is at $260 and it doesn't even look as good, then you know you definitely need to adjust up. Now, sometimes you do need to adjust down too, but it should still fall within that range that we were talking about, especially in a neutral market that's not necessarily moving up or down too quick. Every once in a while you get into a place where there were a couple hard listings that, you know, they're pre-flip or something and they drop the price a little bit, but you should be able to validate your price with the condition, and it should be within the range that you decided upon back at the beginning when you did your planning. Step 4, you will decide upon a final price and you will complete the listing agreement and all the disclosures. So that's the official paperwork to get the listing into the system and out there. You decide on a date to go live and you discuss all the planning for showing times and access and how you want that to happen. We have a ton of options there. So there is a lot of different ways that we can go about doing the showing. I think sometimes the people that are selling their homes to the iBuyers and just want the all cash offer done in a week do not want to show the home because they think it's going to be terribly inconvenient. We can say that the home is only shown 1 day a week. We can say that it's only shown between these times. You will get an hour, 2 hour, 24 hours heads up. We can notify you of requests via text, phone, or email. So there's just a ton of flexibility there, and we make it so that it's the least inconvenient thing possible. But to get the best price, you still need to show the home. Finally, you review and approve the listing. You actually see what it's going to look like to everybody online, and then you prepare to list for sale. So during that entire time, this is kind of a breakdown of who's going to do what. So the analysis and pricing is all on us as a team, right? You're going to basically choose the price, but we're going to guide you within a specific range. If you're outside of that range, again, we will not buy a listing. We will not be the agents that will disappoint you later. We will tell you exactly what we truly believe. And so if it's outside of our range, then we'll probably suggest that you work with somebody else. And we even have a couple suggestions of people that might be good for that. So in addition to offering you peace of mind and saving you time and money, we're supposed to relieve you of a few of these other responsibilities during the process. I forgot to mention that. Listing the home would be all on us. We prepare all the documents and all the marketing and everything that we're talking about. We do the cleaning and the pictures and get everything ready. And then you do fill out the disclosures. This is everything that you know about the home. Most of them are just things you need to put a signature on because we already filled them out for you, but one of them says everything you knew about the home, called the seller's property disclosure. Then we will market your home and we will vet any potential buyers that come through. We will go under contract together once we decide that the offer that a buyer has presented really makes sense for your goals and your timeline. And we will work together through inspection and inspection resolution. We will work together through appraisal. However, we will be the ones negotiating that and supporting the appraisal with the data. We might need data from you in terms of any upgrades you might have done, and then we'll close it together. This is a look at the pictures that we take. So the standard picture on the left and our professional HDR photography wide angle lens, best in the business photo on the right, same room. We do capture magazine quality images, and it really does drive 2 to 3 times more people to your listing. Pictures matter. If anyone comes in, if you're interviewing other agents and they start taking pictures with their phone that they intended, no. I am not a great photographer. I'm an okay photographer, but even that doesn't suffice. My clients get the best. The wide angle lenses, these really do sell 45% faster, and you have a 75% greater chance of closing at your goal price than properties that are not getting this treatment. And also, we'll choose the right tools for the job. Aside from the right photography and the deep cleaning, we might need to do a virtual tour, we might do videos, we might do feature cards or floor plans if it's necessary. So all of this will be discussed at the time of listing and when you pick the package that you're looking for. So positioning, this is something where the pricing strategy, you can't just pick the price once. You really have to pick the price again once you see what you are up against and how your listing is going to look on the against them, right? So once you look at that competition and you've got that second comparative market analysis, and you really know your ideal moving timeline and your carrying costs, all that at this point, then you can kind of figure out, okay, does it make more sense to go a little bit more towards traditional or energy pricing? And that's why I really feel like this is the very last step before you make it live. And this is just a truth. There are the homes that sell, and then there are the homes that sell the homes that sell. So you don't want to be the latter, you want to be the former. We go through the listing agreement, the final paperwork to make it all official. It defines listing price and terms and commissions. It outlines inclusions and exclusions and any additional requirements. So we'll go through that with you, and we have something called a contract advisor, which you'll see in a second. The disclosures I mentioned, seller's property disclosure might take you about half an hour to fill out. You just want to be completely dead honest on that. If there was ever a problem that you knew about with the house, mention it and then mention what was done. Square footage, source of water, seller advisory, all those are fairly easy to fill out. It's mostly a review and a signature. And then lead-based paint, if it was built prior to 1978, you will need to fill out a lead-based paint disclosure as well. And there are additional disclosures that might be necessary. We'll let you know. This is the contract advisor. So what you can see there is anything in red is we took basically the legalese and we tried to reinterpret it to plain English. And so for that, we give all of our clients this document that really helps them to understand the contract. And we're happy to go through it line by line with you live. But a lot of people like the simplicity of being able to say, I don't know what this, this clause means. And then they can just look it up. And then we can answer the bigger picture questions too. So just like these too much information series, I like to say that the contract advisors that we've created are clinically proven to be the best over-the-counter sleep aid on the market today. I know, I wrote them. So yeah, this is something that we think is a great and valuable asset and tool for our clients. All right, phase 2, selling the home. So we've gone through, we came up with a great plan. We saved a ton of money by not doing the work that wasn't necessary. Got the work done, captured the pictures, and compared it to our competition, and now we are live on the market. So, listing and marketing, I call this the big show. Timeline 3 to 4 weeks on average, depending on the time of year. So that can end price, so that can vary. You need a great agent, you need the multiple listing system access, and you need a comprehensive marketing plan. So what you need to do is maximize your exposure. You want as many people through the door as possible, and I don't care who tells you what, this is as simple as it gets. To get the best price, you want as many people to see the listing as possible, because there are very likely people out there that really want the features that your home has, regardless of what it is, and you just need to find them. So basically, you need to tell everyone about your sale, and we will do everything in our power with all the tools to tell the entire world we can possibly tell about your listing. But we need your help too. So we need you to talk about it. You never know where your buyer might come from. Typically, we'll ask you every week just to see have you come across any buyers, and we do this with all of our sellers, mostly because if I'm asking my other sellers about them finding buyers, it might not be the buyer for their home, otherwise they'd tell me about it immediately, but it might be the buyer for one of my other listings. And in that way too, we leave no stone unturned. So where are buyers looking? where did they find the home that they purchased? Most of them are on the internet. So the very first thing we do is we syndicate and we send it out to every website it could possibly be on. And then the rest of them typically are finding them through their real estate agent. And that usually is through an automated search, which is also searching on the internet. So really the internet is the number one. And then you can see here that drops down into Yard House, Open Sign, friend, family, or relative or neighbor. So that's really important in that talking aspect. There's still, I mean, you can see there, it's still probably 7%. Home builder, so some people go buy new, some knew the sellers, and some saw print ads. But notice how few, it's almost 1% that print ads were the reason that they found the home that they were looking for. So 2018 profile of home buyers and sellers. I can actually update this with 2019. I know it hasn't changed much. I just read it. 96% of them search online. 83% of home buyers purchased a detached property. So most people are out there looking for, a home that is not attached to the next home. The sold versus list price average was 98%, and our average weeks on market was 3. So the median price for sale by owners was $200,000, which is 7% of all sales out there. Not many people above that lowest price range, where it's really kind of easy to sell these properties, are actually selling the house on their own. 265 is the median price of agent assisted, and that's national. So that is prices across the entire nation. Ours are quite a bit higher than that. 87% of buyers work with an agent. So if you're unwilling to pay the cooperative commission, which we've already discussed at this point, but if you don't pay the buyer's agent the 2.8% that they're expecting, you will risk losing many potential buyers. And the reason is because the people working with an agent have agreed that the agent will get paid that amount. If you offer less than that, they have to come up with a difference, which means to them, you're essentially lowering the price by that amount. So it's really, this is the number that I would say you wouldn't necessarily want to negotiate, because you're negotiating against yourself. If you're going to negotiate anything, negotiate the other half of it, which is the 3.2% that I would charge to sell the home. And I'm all about negotiating. I will show you my value and earn it. So in terms of marketing, it's all about being seen. We have traditional and digital marketing methods, and you just saw that most of the stuff comes from the internet. So the digital marketing is, in my opinion, a little bit more important, a little bit more prevalent right now, but traditional marketing still has its place, which is why we still do it. So sign in the yard, obviously, open houses. I like to launch all my listings with an open house and really let the neighborhood know by actually going out there and knocking on doors. Intra-office. So now we are in the largest office in the state, 750 from the KW office we used to be at, which was 300. So we will let everybody in our office know. Word of mouth from both us and our team members, and we ask that, again, you talk about it too. Brochures, flyers, and mailers, those are things that you can do if you want to. We haven't found them to be a little bit less effective. They don't necessarily sell a house, but in conjunction with everything else, it definitely helps. So with digital marketing, we have the multiple listing system, the internet listing. We put it on there, and then the listing aggregators, it gets sent to all the other sites from that site. So that's exactly what you want. Then we also put it on social media. We have an internal relocation company that'll get it out to all the people that are outside of this state that are looking through their companies for relocation. And we do video marketing, and we also work through a bunch of professional networks. We have a lot of tie-ins with the 30 agents on our team. This is MLS syndication, again, that aggregator that basically takes it and just pushes it out to every site that could possibly have it. Now, sometimes this takes just a little bit of time. This is why we like to list the property on at least a Friday, because most of these take 24 hours, and some of them are a little bit slower than that. They can take 48 to 72 hours. However, the people that are searching on the ones that get it 3 days later are very likely not your most immediately able buyer. They're probably the ones that are just window shopping. So we'll make sure it goes where it needs to go, which is everywhere, and gets there in the appropriate amount of time within our plan. All right, so for showings, I call this maintaining the illusion, because this is hard. You do need to keep the house up. But luckily, like I said, we got it clean for you, and if you have kids and pets and things like that, then every once in a while we might need to clean it again, or we might need to take little breaks. We can do whatever we need to do. Showings, like I said, probably will happen for anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. You need a great agent, a tidy home, something for pet management, and a favorite restaurant or bar, because someplace you can go when the showings are happening. So how does it work? We have a centralized showing system where basically they will make sure that everybody has an agent. The agent will call, they will request the showing. Can be customized for almost every set of circumstances, like I talked about earlier. Some tips for success is keep the home tidy. Remove all valuables. I mean, really, this is a very tight system with a lot of security around having only licensed agents and their clients go out together. However, you still, especially like during open houses, just take anything that's really valuable out of the home. Put it in a safe, lock it up, put it in your car, do what you need to do. Disarm alarm systems, because the alarm systems, agents don't necessarily all, even if we put the most detailed notes in there, they don't all know how to access them and disarm them. Some people don't read notes. So if you don't want it going off all the time, you can disarm it while you're doing showings. Minimize pet impact. Try to make it look like they're not there and try to take them with you when you go. If you can't, that's fine. We just need to find a place for them to be while the showing is going on, and we can make accommodations. Mention selling to friendly neighbors and ask for help. If you have neighbors on either side that maybe don't keep their properties as well as they might, if you would ask them politely to do so, then it's a good idea to do that. If you're not going to be there, absentee maintenance, you got to consider it. Who's going to come and cut the lawn? Who's going to do these other things? We can help you with that, certainly, but it's something we need to take into consideration. And then weekends and evenings are going to be times that we request that you make available for showings, because that's when most people are going to come through. Now, we will be asking for feedback from all agents that go through the property. We send everybody a survey. They'll all be asked what they and their buyers thought about the property. We will send you the feedback directly. Again, we want to be completely open and honest with you, and in that way we can actually do something about it. Sometimes it's just a one-off opinion, but if we start to see a trend, then it might be something we want to take care of, especially if it's something in the condition or in the price, because we can control those things. If it's location or if it's layout, those are things that you can't do a whole lot about, so then you have to start talking about the price. So we do follow up with all interested parties to see if we can get an offer. We are pursuing them every single day, and typically on Mondays is when we're calling everybody to see what they thought about weekend traffic. Selling can be emotional and exhausting. Just be prepared. That is a statement that is true, and we do everything in our power to make it easy and even fun. And that's why you hire an agent. That's why we earn what we ask, and we need your participation, but we also need to set a realistic expectation around it. Making adjustments. So when do you know to change course and how? So typically a couple weeks after we've listed it, if we don't have an offer, or we have a very low amount of showings. If it's lower than what we expect, we'll start talking to you. So you need a great agent, showing analytics, feedback, and a plan. So with course correction, what you need to really look at is, okay, let's pull up the new competition and see if there's just been a series of homes that are underpriced or in better condition for the same price. And see if maybe we know, okay, now there's just these two that need to sell, and then we should be next in line. And then if it's something that's coming up often in the feedback and it's about condition, again, we might just change it. We might go ahead and get that repair done. Again, unchangeables, like I mentioned before, we kind of have to move into price if there's something that we really can't affect. And then we compare all of this to your ideal moving timeline. If you are flexible, then maybe we just continue to wait it out until we get the right price. It's not necessary that we drop the price after 2 weeks. It's just that necessary that we have a conversation to see where your priorities lie. And then during that conversation, we'll look at that carrying costs versus net proceeds. If it's going to cost you more to hold the property and sell it, especially if you've got another one lined up or you've already purchased a property, then we take that into consideration when looking at maybe doing a price reduction. So aggressive adjustments, as just a note, usually yield the best results. If you drop $1,000 every week, you're actually going to be much, much less effective than if you just dropped it $5,000 at the end of the month. You know what I mean? You will very likely get the home under contract in that way. You want to drop it into the market price if you're above. 33% of sales do reduce their price, and this is especially true. Our market always dips starting in July. It tends to stagnate in July, and then after that, it's a downward trend until we get to the holidays, which is just about anybody's guess. So, buyers tend to take a break, and many listings compete, is what it says. Okay, so the other thing we can do is we can get second opinions from brokers. We can do, instead of an open house where we're looking for buyers for your home, we're actually bringing brokers in, because if you feed them, they will come. So we put out wine and cheese and do something like that and ask them to come over and take a look at your listing. And not only does it spread that word of mouth, but it gives us a second opinion about what we could do potentially to make the listing more attractive. Offer review. So once we get an offer, that's going to be kind of an ongoing thing. You need a great agent, an analysis spreadsheet, and some time. We are going to help vet your buyers. Anything that comes in, we will present to you. And we will do so as well as doing additional research, more than just what's on the paper. So vetting your buyers is the key to protecting yourself from surprises and potentially getting to a week before closing without being able to close. We don't like winding up in that situation, so we do everything we can to avoid it. We have to ask the right questions now. Typically a buyer's means. These are just some trends. 49, half of them out there have student loan debt. The average household income for buyers right now is $88,000, and the average amount financed is 90%. So most people are putting 10% down. Why is this important? Because this means that they're debt laden. They maybe don't make as much as you might expect, and they're putting 10% down, which is still not bad, but that means that you need to be working within the context of, if they put in an offer that's well above your price, they're just hoping that the appraisal will come in low, because then they won't have the option but to have you lower the price if you want to continue. We will put together a spreadsheet and we will literally highlight what we believe is the best offer for you to meet your goals. It might not always be your highest offer, but the one with the best price and terms. And so we do that if we have multiple offers. If we don't have multiple offers, then we just help you analyze each one as we go. Then the last thing is we might take backup offers. So the nice thing about having multiple offers to choose from is if you choose a primary, just in case that doesn't go through, you can take a backup. Now we'll tell you when it's best to do this and how it's best to do it, because you can either write a backup offer or you can actually do a verbal backup saying, hey, we'll let you know if anything goes wrong. But it gives us some leverage against our primary, because as soon as the primary says, oh, hey, we found all this stuff in inspection and now we want this much off the price, we say, well, we've got someone waiting in the wings. So we do often encourage backup offers, and we'll talk about that if we need to. And I also love this picture. So, all right, the last phase is closing. So this is, you've got an offer, and what's next? So the first thing is, with that offer that you get from a buyer, make sure that negotiation is your very first step. The thing is, this will happen anywhere from 24 to 48 hours after receiving and reviewing the offer or offers. You need a great agent, a BATNA, which is the best alternative to negotiating an agreement. You need to know what you're willing to walk away for, and you need leverage. So the contract is binding and it's very heavily slanted towards buyers' rights. Negotiate, if you're the seller, while you're in the position of power, which is before the offer is mutually executed, or be prepared to face the consequences. So what this means is, really, the seller can't get out of the contract unless the buyer's in default, and the buyer has a lot of different remedies. So you really want to make sure your price, that you've got any sort of escalation clause narrowed down or locked in, and you've countered at their highest price. The timeline makes sense, and all the dates are something, especially the dates for the seller, are ones that they can hit comfortably. Objection and resolution gives you enough time to get work done that might be necessary. You should limit the inspection items as much as possible when you're in the driver's seat, and get any appraisal guarantees. So if they're bringing 10% down and they're putting something in higher than you're asking, you want to make sure that they're good for it. Then you can negotiate the little fees. You can also do your post-closing occupancy. Just make sure you hammer that out, all the details. Don't leave that until after the contract has been signed, and any given contingencies. Realistic expectations. Earnest money, which is it's supposed to be a buyer's skin in the game, is really not treated that way by the Colorado contract, mostly because they, for all intents and purposes, can get out of the contract and say the right thing all the way up until a very, very late deadline. It's the new loan termination deadline. So everything in the contract, all the contingencies that the buyers get, are in the buyer's subjective sole discretion, meaning they don't, it's basically money that you're not going to hold on to. I would not plan on that being your money as the seller. Plan on giving that back if it doesn't work out, but we can negotiate just about anything. So the seller must sell. As long as that buyer isn't in default, you must sell the property. You can't just change your mind. If you do want to make sure that you have an out, you need to put it in the listing first and advertise that the sale is contingent upon the seller finding a suitable replacement property, and you want to make sure it's signed in the additional provisions of the contract before you go under contract, or you can counter with it. That way everybody knows it's very clearly out there, and if you don't find a suitable replacement, then you have an out. And then nothing should be left to be determined. Make sure that everything is very clear, including if there's unknown dates for any reason, say what date at which you will know the dates to enter into the contract and how they will be entered. In inspection, I call it surprise, surprise. It's usually within the first week. We try to get that inspector out there as soon as possible. The buyer wants to know right away. The seller wants to know right away. You need a great agent, trustworthy contractors, and a level head. So with the inspection, it's probably the first time that the home has been gone through to this degree in a very long time. And things that very, very commonly come up. First of all, health and safety, even in a seller's market, are probably going to be things we suggest that you take care of, because as soon as a material fact has been disclosed to you as a seller, even if you didn't know about it before, you must now amend your seller's property disclosure with that information and tell all future parties that are going to buy the home about the issue. Now it becomes a little troublesome when you don't necessarily know if the inspector knows their stuff. So a lot of times we are doing secondary investigations with licensed contractors. Some inspection items that come up very, very commonly: electrical code requirements, HVAC inspections, call to clean, service and certify, radon, roof inspections, site drainage and grading, and basically anything else health and safety. But usually we can get through that pretty easily without getting into the thousands of dollars, and we've got some great contractors to help out. Finally, the heavy hitters, the ones that are really going to be, changing the price or the scope of the sale and your net proceeds, would be if the sewer needs repair, the main sewer line, that could cost thousands. Anything with the foundation, electrical recalls, which we can call out when we do our initial walkthrough, so you guys would know about that way before you ever decide to sell the property. Anything with the windows or roof, those are both very expensive. And if anything was unpermitted, especially added square footage. Now, basements, that if I had a nickel for every unpermitted basement, I'd be a rich man. But if you're adding an addition on the back or something like that, you always want to get permits. Permits can be pulled retroactively. So even if you bought the house with an addition that wasn't permitted and your buyer's offering the right price, but they want the permits pulled, we can do that. Material defects must be disclosed. So if the inspection turns up any issue you didn't know about, you must legally add it to the property disclosure and tell all future buyers again. So there are some resolution options here. Luckily with the options, it makes it easier when you have options to make it through these negotiations, even when they get a little tense. Repairs, so you can get the repairs done. Again, we've got great contractors that can usually fit into our timeline, even if it's 30 days, which is a typical closing. Then if we don't have the money to do the repairs, then we can do, or we don't want to, there's concessions, meaning that we can give the buyers back some money at closing to help them keep money in their pocket and cover the repair costs on their own later. Or we can lower the price. Both of those don't really have a whole lot of effect other than your net will go down by that amount, but we choose it basically based on what makes more sense for the buyer. And then finally we have repair escrows. If the buyer must have something done, or the lender must have something done in order to move forward, and we simply do not have the money to cover it at the time, we can take usually an overestimation, probably 150 to 200% of the estimated repair costs. They're going to hold that at title from your net proceeds, and then they're going to pay the contractor that we've agreed upon to complete the work after closing. Anything that's left afterwards, because like I said, they take more than they think is necessary, will be paid back to the seller. So you get whatever's left. So that's a repair escrow. Now the buyer's lender has to agree to that. So for appraisal, this usually happens around 2 to 3 weeks after the mutual execution of the contract, which is MEC. You need a show-ready home and a great agent. So what it's really worth? Really, we're gonna have to sell the home twice. Once to the buyer who is initially engaged, and second, we literally want it in the same showing shape at the time of the appraisal. The inspection, you don't need to worry so much. The inspection just needs stuff to be moved so that there's access to all parts of the house, but it doesn't need to be clean. The appraisal, we're really trying to sell it again, especially for driving the market. So if we're high on the price, this is where we want to really impress the appraiser. So they'll come by, they'll do a site visit, which usually takes about an hour, and then they'll do their analysis, a comparative market analysis, and a full appraisal. And if there are no good comparable properties for them to really find a price, then we will help them, by doing a little market research and providing it to them. It's a little tricky because you don't want to tell them how to do their job, but you certainly don't want to leave it alone. So we always kind of toe that line and figure out exactly how much help we can give the appraiser, how much they want, because you want to keep them happy, that's for sure. And the other thing to know about this is the appraisal will be the property of the buyer. So they're paying for it through their lender, and it will go straight to them, and actually even their agent doesn't get a copy of the appraisal unless they say so. What we will hear on the selling side is either we're good, which means it hit at least the contract value or above, or we're not, it's too low. In which case, if it's too low, the buyer obviously wants you to lower the price. You obviously want the buyer to come to the table with the additional cash necessary to make up their contract price, and usually we'll find somewhere in the middle. All right, so just know 25% sales do not appraise at certain times of year. When we're having a lot of the bidding wars, that's when people are really reaching and driving the market, and at those times, appraisers are having a hard time finding comparable properties. One of the other things, one of the ways to avoid this is to pre-negotiate what will happen in a low appraisal before choosing a buyer, and make sure that's written into the contract and those additional provisions, or you might have to start over or lose. The other thing that we do to support appraisals for our clients is that we have all of the data that we can possibly give them that they might not have access to. So we might ask you for a list of upgrades, which can be a simple spreadsheet with a date and a line item about what you did and how much it cost. If you did work yourself, count yourself as skilled labor at $50 an hour. In that way, we can see how much money you've actually put into the home, and that will have value for the appraiser, as well as any other competing offers that we get. We're going to show to the appraiser as well to show market demand. Oh, here we go. So this is our appraisal packet, the info that the appraiser doesn't have access to. We give them the competing offers, upgrades and updates. We give them context. So if the seller took a lower offer because of beneficial terms, we'll explain that, and then we give them our CMA, which is the comparative market analysis and how we determined the price. Appraisal is more of an art form than a science, which means that we're going to do everything that we can, but every once in a while you get a bad appraiser. So in those situations, luckily we have the ability to negotiate that once that comes back. So if there's gap, we will negotiate a couple different things that we can happen. So once we get past the appraisal though, now we're on to closing, and this is about 4 to 6 weeks after the mutual execution of the contract. All you need is a great agent, all the transfer paperwork, invoices for the repairs. The repairs need to be complete, and paid in full invoices, please, and a plan. So the seller responsibility, upkeep and repairs. The home doesn't need to be in the same condition as when the buyer first agreed to buy it. So you can't let the yard grow to 3 feet, if it's been a long closing. And it does need to be, if something happens to it, like it floods while you're under contract, or hail hits while you're under contract, those repairs do need to be made. A final cleaning. Room clean is acceptable in a seller's market, meaning that you have removed all the items, please, all the items. You can leave the extra paint and maybe a few extra tiles if it's necessary, but don't leave them with all the stuff that you think they might want. Always ask. And then, like I said, sweep it up, vacuum, and that is considered good for our marketplace unless the buyer specifically requested and put into the contract a professional cleaning. Transfer documentation. If there were any title issues, they will have been discovered and resolved at this point. Information on where you'd like the proceeds to go. You know, if it's being put into one account via, they can cut you a cashier's check there at closing, or if it's wire, very, very important, they will not send you wire instructions without a secondary verification from the title company. And we on the real estate side will never send you a wire request. So just always double check. Wire fraud is on the rise right now. Also, they can split proceeds if it's the case of a divorce or something like that. They just need to know ahead of time. And utilities transfer. So we'll help you with this, but title will transfer lienable items like water, HOA, and solar leases, but the buyer and seller are responsible for all other transfers, including gas, electric, cable, security systems, mail forwarding, and etc. We'll help you with a list. There will be a final walkthrough that the buyer and their agent will do, typically somewhere around 24 hours to 48 hours before closing, sometimes right before closing. They're going to look at all the repairs that you did and make sure that they're satisfactory. Now, in order to make sure that there are no surprises here, we like to send them pictures of the work when it's completed along with paid in full invoices so they know exactly what was done. That way, if they have any questions or it's not satisfactory, we know about it and we have time to do something about it. The only thing they can do here, their remedy is not to close, and we don't like that. So we want to take care of it ahead of time. Some of the considerations to think of because at this point, most of the times it's a vacant property. You've either moved out or you've arranged a post-closing occupancy and you'll be moving out after closing. But you want to make sure someone's taking care of the lawn, that there's junk removal. Again, you really don't want to leave anything that you haven't asked the buyer if they want. Again, aside from a touch-up paint and a few tiles, but that is about all I would leave. The cleaning, if it does need a cleaning, we can help you with that too. Repairs are all done. All the manuals and house docs and every copy of the key that you have and garage door opener, are there at the home, and then we'll take one of them to closing or a couple of them to closing to hand off. Otherwise, it's easiest just to put everything into a kitchen drawer so that they will have all those things. And then anything needing explanation. So there's always a complicated sprinkler system or where the mailbox is. I love it when my sellers write a little note that just says, welcome to our home. These are the things we loved about it, and these are the things you should know about it. You don't have to do that. We will facilitate communication after closing if the buyer has any questions. You'll get a settlement statement, and that settlement statement will show you exactly where every penny is going to go. If you have any questions about that, you can ask us, but this won't be the first time you've seen it. It will look similar to the net sheet, which was an estimate. These are the final figures. And a lot of the numbers do change a little bit due to dates. So that's why we always say that the net proceed sheet is an estimate. Closing options. You don't actually have to be there in person and wet sign everything. That's what we kind of like. We love it when the buyers and sellers meet. We have a great transaction. It's a really cathartic and emotional closer to a financial and business transaction. I think it's a great way to go. All parties meet at the same time. They close. Generally, we decide about a week before closing or more. And it has to be within normal business hours. So if you do work a 9 to 5, you've got to take time off for this. We can do a split closing. So we do a split closing or a power of attorney. If buyer and seller cannot get together or do not want to get together in some cases, or both sellers can't be there or both buyers can't be there, then we can actually assign a power of attorney so that one can sign for the other. Additional lead time is necessary if that is something that you will need. And we can finally do a mail out. So if you have already moved to your new state or wherever your new place is and you cannot make it, we, with enough heads up, typically we want about a week, if not a week and a half, then we can send you all the documents and you will visit a mobile notary, or a mobile notary will come to you, explain all the documents, and then we will get you to sign those, send them back, and then we'll close the buyers. And I'll be there to make sure everything goes right. All right, that's it for closing, and I'll jump into this one next and we'll wrap up the series. Thank you. All right, last video in the Sellers Class series. Thanks for sticking around. Again, if you're watching these too much information series, you're probably either very bored or very invested in what you're doing. So we'd love to meet with you and actually speak through your context individually. What is next after closing? Well, moving, obviously, but the way that looks could be different for different people. And here are a few things that you might want to take into consideration. First of all, you're welcome. Yay, closing. And you have to move. I'm sorry. Or yay. I mean, it's both. So if you haven't already, you can go through the Impact Buyer's Consultation to make sure you know everything that's necessary to purchase your new property. Typically, we're doing those kind of concurrently in most cases, but we'll basically educate you on everything you need to know about the purchase side. If you have a simultaneous closing, we've already located and secured your replacement home, and we're coordinating closing and possession dates, typically with a post-closing occupancy, so you only have to move once. And that is renting your house back from the person who just purchased it. And a lot of times we're negotiating the best terms so that you don't have to pay for that. Or you could be waiting. You could be collecting your proceeds and then waiting to find a new home when it makes sense. In which case you just need to move twice. So if you're good at it, sometimes people out there don't mind it too much. So once you close or after your post-closing occupancy, you are homeless. Make sure you have a plan B. That is our thing. We should have put that together at the planning phase, which is why it's so important to us. All right, I just want to mention something about, this is what's called an iBuyer. So Zillow and Opendoor both will offer to buy your property outright in cash, no questions asked. And they say that it's the easiest way to go. You'll hear it all over the radio right now. Now, I just want to say that this is a viable option, and in many cases, it actually can be helpful. Why am I so blurry? Oh, there we go, maybe. There. There are a few cases where I think it is actually helpful, but in most cases you are paying a lot for the convenience. So the pros, they'll buy it directly from you, little hassle, for Zillow at least. Accessible resources on the website, you don't have to do much, you just kind of tell them, come tell me how much my home is worth. The cons are the pricing calculation is usually very off, so you're often leaving money on the table. They're telling you it's a fair market price, but I like to have my clients get the Zillow or Opendoor offer and then compare it to what I am going to get for them by doing the marketing and charging them, and we'll compare the net proceeds. At the end of it, is it worth the difference that I can get you? Is that worth your time? The other cons are that you have to access everything on the website. It's not much of a in-person thing. And you need an account sign up. They are focused right now on purchasing mid-level homes, not luxury or lower priced, and there's no single source of continuity or no info. It's just kind of a one-time use transactional thing. With Opendoor, the pros are you can sell your home right away if you want to avoid showings, if you don't want anyone in your house. And there's flexibility with closing dates and timeline to a degree. Once they close, they're very strict about when they need the house. The cons are, and both these programs are the same, on average, they charge 7.4% for the convenience, and they can charge all the way up to 13%. You have less control over the process. Often the offers are lower than what a realtor could get you through savvy negotiation. You don't have a single source of info or continuity. Again, you're kind of just disposable. And finally, whatever they tell you in their inspection that they want to be fixed, it's go or no go. And so a lot of times they are hitting you hard there. Good things to know, but get the offer. Have both options in front of you and make the choice that makes the most sense for you. I've seen, situations where maybe in a state with a lot of children who don't want to deal with it, this might be the right option. All right, next. Oh, that's it. All right, so if you have any other questions, please feel free to hit us up. Always here, we love to do these in person in your home. We cannot tell you what your home is worth without visiting it. If anyone says that's true, that's not going to be an accurate statement. So go ahead and sign up for a consultation whenever you're ready, and we'd love to meet you. All right, have a great one, and thanks for sticking around. Bye.
Another way we can help clients is through investor opportunities. These opportunities include investments such as single-family homes, multifamily properties, and fix and flip investments. Here are a few examples. Welcome back to Raritan. Come on in.
I'm Dan Fortune, and thank you so much to all of our investors for helping make this Raritan project. Despite the crazy timing with COVID, we proved out our strategy and it's a very successful project for all of our investors. Hope you enjoy the walkthrough, seeing before and after. your faith and confidence. And if you're interested in a future project, look at the information below. You're welcome to contact us and reach out. It'd be great to talk with you about future investments. We're here at Birch Drive. This was a great investment for the company and for our investors. So this property was originally a single ranch, and then in the 1990s, there was an addition built off the back. So what we did is we just tore out some of these walls, all non-load bearing walls, and just made it much more functional with what is now a large living room, a pass-through fireplace, and then it opens up into the large kitchen. So the annualized return on this property for all the investors is going to be very close to about 40%. This room here was an existing kitchen, and then there was a wall across the other side here that separated the house, really in just a strange way. So by opening that up and putting a pass-through fireplace, it really just opened this room, and then we were able to put a large island in the kitchen, which took up some space and also just made it much more usable. So upstairs here in the master, it was actually 2 bedrooms and a really small bathroom. So what we were able to do is, instead of having 2 bedrooms, is you have one incredibly large master bedroom overlooking open space and a lake and a park, and then a nice size master ensuite bath, and in addition, just an enormous walk-in closet that I'll show you here in a second. Large master closet. It was one of the main selling points of this property, and I think why we were able to get so much over asking price.
With the iMPACT team at Your Castle Real Estate here. Welcome to 18274 Unit B on East Arizona Avenue. Follow me inside. Dazzling Discovery at Quill Run condos just hit the market in Aurora. This refreshing home features 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 992 square feet of living space. The first floor features clear sight lines with an open concept living room, a freshly remodeled kitchen, and an eat-in nook. The kitchen comes equipped with granite countertops, soft close cabinets, and an upgraded island that you will not find in any other unit. This brilliant home also boasts a striking fireplace to warm up during winter months, and for the comfort of you and your guests, a powder room on the main level. The upstairs is joyfully filled with natural light from large windows and vaulted ceilings in both bedrooms, including a window bench in the second bedroom. Expansive closet space in both bedrooms allows for creative storage without sacrificing any clothing. During the summer, sip coffee in your build-to-suit garden that walks out onto the communal greenway. Located on an interior street in the sought-after Arapahoe 28J School District, this home is zoned for Arkansas Elementary, Mirachek Middle School, and Rangeview High School. Come check out what Aurora Living is all about. Call me, Tegan, at this number.
Welcome home to 7436 Augusta Drive. Here we have a formal living room, dining room, eat-in kitchen, living room. We also have a large kitchen with custom cabinets, granite countertops. Here we have a gas fireplace that opens up to the large backyard. Here we have a full bathroom right next to a large bedroom, all on the main floor for easy living. This way is the master bedroom with flat iron views, as well as a large master bathroom with walk-in closets. Upstairs, we have 3 large bedrooms and a Jack and Jill bathroom in addition to the master bathroom. Large finished basement with an additional bedroom, bathroom, and storage area. And my favorite place in the house is the backyard.
Located in the desirable Country Club Estates with easy access to the Boulder Country Club, a pool, trails, and tennis courts.
So, what about buying? This training gives you many of the pieces we've developed to help buyers understand the process and take advantage of all the benefits of home ownership.
Today we are going to go through the 2020 Buyers class. This is part of a series I call Too Much Information because I'm not limiting myself in time, though I will break it up into modules. And if you know me, I love the details. So I teach this class 2 times a year or so, right around the fall. And I also teach it privately to anyone who's interested for free. I'll buy a beer or coffee and we'll sit down and we'll go over specifically what's most important to you in your context. However, I did want to get this class up there online, and here it goes. All right, so this class will cover these things. First, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are as a team, why you can trust what we're telling you. We do our homework, we do our research, and we'll tell you a little bit about Your Castle Real Estate, the brokerage that we've moved to, and where we absolutely love it. And then we'll cover to buy or not to buy. I think that's kind of the first thing to do when you're thinking about obviously purchasing a home. It's a big decision. There are a lot of little moving pieces, so if you can kind of figure out whether it's worth all the effort ahead of time, I think that's a great way to go. We'll talk about buying versus renting, status of the market. If you do own a home, we'll talk about whether it's worth it or not, and we'll get into lending options at that point. And finally, we'll get into the process, which has 3 phases in my mind: preparing, then searching, then closing. And we'll talk a little bit in detail about all the different steps within those phases. And finally, we'll end with some pro tips, which I think are kind of independent topics in terms of like finding a good team to work with, someone that you feel comfortable with, new construction, new builds, what to know when heading in that direction, some tips for competitive bidding if you happen to be in a situation where that is happening, and finally, wealth building, which we also teach an entire class about wealth building, so that's kind of a little bit of a teaser. All right, let's dive in. All right, a little bit about who we are. So we're called the Impact Team, and we are at Your Castle Real Estate. We used to be at Keller Williams, but we moved on over. And we are a group of about 30 agents. Obviously, there's not that many in this picture, and this picture's very old. It's kind of like herding cats trying to get us all together. So the reason we call ourselves the Impact Group is because we really do like to make an impact, not only on our clients through being lifelong trusted real estate consultants, not one-time use disposable agents, but also on the communities and the world that we all share together. So we do residential and commercial, sale and purchase. We do investment, management, and consultation. And when we were back in our old office, we were number 1 for 3 years in a row. And then we moved into kind of a bigger pond with Your Castle, and now we're number 2. So got our eyes on the prize, and we're gunning for number 1. We've been top 1% of teams in the nation, and that's based on customer satisfaction as well as production for Zillow and Trulia. And we've been named the Wall Street Journal's top 1,000 teams in the nation, as well as several other accolades from 5280 and a few other places. All right, so in terms of giving back to our community and the world, we really are focused on, being very philanthropic. Many of us serve on the boards of different nonprofits. We all donate our time, and many of us donate our commissions, and these are just a few of the ones that we like to support right here. And then what we like to do, as often as possible, when babies or retirements or marriages aren't happening, is we like to make a trip every year somewhere in the world that would be fun to visit and also fun to help out. And we invite all of our past clients. We don't pay for airfare necessarily, but we get good rates on some group bookings, and it's just been an amazing thing. So that's our impact trip, and when we can't do it abroad, we do it locally. We also love the culture of our team, and not even just our team, but our team and our clients. So we do these appreciation events. There's a Rockies game, which is the picture here. We do a movie where we rent out a couple movie theaters, invite all of our past clients. We do some barbecues and some happy hours, and really just love being in contact with our people, being around them. We love the people that we work with. And then we also teach a couple classes. This is one of them, doing the digital version of it, a buyer's class, a seller's class, and an investment seminar. And then finally, we have our philanthropic events, which are the habitat or volunteer event locally, and then that impact trip as often as we can do it. All right, and we are with Your Castle Real Estate now. We moved over from KW, and the reason we did so is because Your Castle is the largest independent here in Colorado, and with a local broker, especially the largest independent here, you get local data, and local data is what you should use to make local decisions. So it was a no-brainer for us to move over. They're also really investor focused, as is our team. So it was a really, really good fit, and we love it here. They've won several awards and accolades over the years, and this is just a few of them. All right, the first question that I'd like to help everybody answer is to buy or not to buy. For that is the question. Truly though, if you're looking into it, the first thing I think you should do is consider your lifestyle. There are a lot of differences between owning and renting. And namely, here are some of the most common ones. owning is a little bit more stable, obviously. You can predict what's going to happen in the future. You do have the potential for equity and wealth building, which we'll get into a little bit later. There are tax benefits for sure. There is a predictable budget, which is kind of nice. Nobody can raise the rent on you and kind of change the scope of your finances. There's creative control. If you want to paint your house purple and you don't live in an HOA, you can do so. And if you want to paint your interior purple, you can do so anyway. You can always pull money out. So as your house continues to make money for you, that's the benefit of ownership. You can actually tap into that and use that money for other things, such as, well, making other money or making improvements. You can rent rooms out and subsidize your mortgage. This is called house hacking, and we'll get into that too. We actually teach a couple of specialty topics on that. And then I do have maintenance on here, which is simply because you do need to maintain a house that you own. So that's one of the drawbacks. And let's look at renting. With renting, it's a little bit shorter term. You could go month to month if you need to, which means it's more flexible. And that flexibility can actually be a huge asset if you have career or income uncertainty. If you just move to a place and you're kind of testing it out to see if you like it, or you're trying out a new job, renting often does make sense. I usually don't tell those folks to buy unless the market is so stable that it would be stupid not to. The other thing that renting is really beneficial for is if you don't have the ability to qualify for a loan. If you have bad credit or anything like that and you just can't qualify, then renting makes sense, obviously. And finally, maintenance is in there too, because maintenance, when you're renting, is not on you. It's on the landlord, which can be a positive or a negative, depending on who your landlord is. All right, and this is just a quick study that was done to look at the net worth of a renter versus a homeowner. And because you're leveraging someone else's money to purchase a property, that asset is then, gaining value for you over time. A homeowner's net worth is significantly, in fact, 45 times more than that of a renter. And you should definitely crunch your numbers specifically. Don't trust everything you hear out there, even if I tell it to you. Buying isn't always the right thing for you, and it's always your specific context that helps you make the decision. So you need to crunch your numbers. But you shouldn't trust all the online calculators. Some of them out there have a slant and they're trying to get you to do something, or act in a specific way. I say don't trust all online calculators. Many of them do set very unrealistic expectations. So it's best to ask a real estate agent or a lender, someone that you really do trust, to help you with this. Or there's a couple links here to ones that I found that were very neutral. So we're going to try to push you one way or the other. And actually, I really like these two because what they do is they allow you to look at, if you had a certain amount of money to put into a home or to put into a different investment, where would your break even be? So you can put in the returns there. So go ahead and try these out. If the links don't work in the video, then feel free to reach out and I'll send them to you. All right, my favorite. This is the status of the market. So the way that I approach this section, I love data, but not everyone does. So I know that graphs cause some people to glaze over. So what I did is I took the real concerns of my clients and I tried to answer them using real data. And looking forward, no one has a crystal ball. So if you hear anyone in the media tell you they know exactly what the real estate market's going to do, it's not true. We can see where the market has been. We can see historically what affects it, and we can draw conclusions about where it might go, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So first thing I'd like to do is just kind of dispel a myth about a 7 to 10 year cycle that we're surely coming to the end of here. That is more of an economic cycle. It's proven more true in those realms, but not necessarily in real estate, as we can see. So this is data from Colorado all the way back until about the beginning of recording data around transactions. And you can see from 1971 to 86, there was a 14-year expansion where every year the prices went up. Then there was flat price growth. Then there was an 18-year expansion from 88 to 2006. And after that, we did have the real estate bubble burst. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But since coming out of that period, we've really only seen about 6 to 8 years, depending on how you're counting, of expansion, and our average annual appreciation during that time frame is about 6.3%. So really, this is not unusual for our marketplace, and we could really only be about halfway in. and prices could continue to rise. There's no reason why some sort of cycle determines that we're going to have to turn into like a buyer's market or prices to go down. So what really does kind of affect our market and who has the most choices to make when it comes to buying or selling is supply versus demand, and we look at that as months of inventory is kind of the metric. So with months of inventory, if you were to stop any new listings from coming to the marketplace, how long would it take to sell off everything that's currently available at our current rate of absorption? And if it takes more than 6 months, it's definitely a buyer's market. There's way more sellers than there are buyers, and the buyers are calling the shots. If it's below 4 months of inventory, it's a seller's market, meaning there's more buyers and the sellers get to call the shots. Since about 2013, we've been in a pretty extreme seller's market like we've never seen before. And in 2016, 2017, we really just tapped out. I mean, it was when there was 20 offers on every single home that hit the market, and everything went well above asking. Since then, we've recovered a little bit. You can see that the trend line is starting to come back, which is good. That means it's a little bit of neutralization, a little bit of normalcy coming back to the market. But if you were considering 2016, 2017 kind of as the speed of light, we are now going at the speed of sound, which is like much slower relatively. However, it's still very fast. So that is all to say, we're still in one of the strongest sellers markets we've ever been in. So what goes up must come down. I kind of hear that a lot, especially from people that are just waiting to buy a house. And if we look, this is a graph of historical price and rent here in the Denver metro area since, again, about 1970. And we can see the rent growth has averaged about 4% over the last 45 years. And the home price increase over the last about 45 years or 50 years has been about 6.3%. So you can see that both these lines represent a pretty steady upward march. In fact, there's really no 10-year period in Colorado's history, as we'll see, where you would have actually lost money if you had purchased a home. And if you can see the rent really didn't take a dip. When everybody had to turn in their home to the bank when the bubble burst, all those people who were homeowners became renters the next day. So here we have it broken out for homes versus condos. And you can see that condos, being the lower line, tend to appreciate just a little bit under what the homes are doing right now, the detached homes. But roughly 6% if you were to average both of them. And there you can see that trend line where there's really no 10-year period where if you had purchased a home and held it for that amount of time, you would have lost money. So really, my recommendation about whether you should buy or continue renting has to do with your time frame. If you're only going to be here for 2 or 3 years and then you want to sell, I would not buy. If you plan to hold on to that house for 5 years or more, then definitely. And if you happen to hold on to it for 10 years, well, you're almost guaranteed to not lose money. So I'll just wait a while. And usually when people tell me this, it's the concern has to do with either money on the left there, or on the right, it's the availability. So the inventory of housing, there's just not enough to look at. Now, if you wait a year, let's look at the short term for a little bit. This is a starter home price range, $360 for a detached property. You can still get into one. If you were to put 20% down, which you don't have to do, you can put as little as 3% down, which we'll learn later. That would be a $72,000 down payment with an interest rate of 4%. Over 30 years is about $1,400 payment. If we assume 5% appreciation per year, which is pretty accurate, again, 6 is the average, but we are kind of seeing that correction where the appreciation is dropping below average. That we've got an appreciation figure there. We have a loan pay down, and then we have simple ROI, return on investment over that period of time is 500%. So you can see that represented in the graph. And if you were to wait 12 months, essentially the payment change at the bottom is the real number to pay attention to. It would be about 11% more expensive to buy in 1 year. It is assuming mortgage rates go up, and right now they're, I think, projected to be pretty well stabilized. I don't know. Don't call me on that. But that might affect it a little bit. However, like I said, most people who are waiting are seeing that the same house is going to cost at least 10% more the very next year. Same thing is true if you're going to buy a starter condo or a townhouse, which is the new starter home for a lot of people, because at $250,000, it's, it's still a lot of money to spend, but that'll get you into a pretty decent condo or townhouse. And this is looking at a 5% down payment, running all the same calculations with the same assumptions. And you can see here again at the bottom that it's another 11% gain in 1 year's time. And if you were to extrapolate that across, the entire length of the mortgage, you're missing out on $300,000 of wealth creation here and about $200,000 of wealth creation here. So the longer you stay out of the game, the longer it hurts you in terms of how much you have the ability to make over time. And then finally, our market is seasonal. So if you're waiting for a short period of time, maybe let's say it's the winter, let's say it's the summer, the heat of the summer, and you're not wanting to deal with any of the bidding wars or anything like that, and you want to wait until the winter, our market is very, very seasonal. And what you can see here is a purple line that represents active listings, and then for those active listings, the yellow bars are the amount of showings that was generated by the same number of listings. So what you can see there is when the purple line is above, when the purple line is above the yellow bars here, what that gap represents is a little bit of breathing room for buyers, meaning there's actually not as many showings as you would expect for the amount of listings, which means it's stagnant. And sellers, those ones especially that need to sell, are going to get a little bit desperate and they're going to lower the price. Then you can see typically in the early spring and early summer, the number of showings eclipses the number of listings, which means that there are bidding wars because you have way more people in every house than we would expect. And then there's kind of the midsummer where you just expect exactly what you would see here, and that's when it peaks and kind of drops off. And so what this tells us is basically there is a time to buy and a time to sell. The time to sell is obviously this spring and early summer market. The time to buy is the fall and winter. I'll just wait out the market. So I hear this one a lot. This is looking at a longer picture view of again, maybe the 7 to 10 year cycle, or just waiting until it becomes a buyer's market, because surely it must be. And if we look at that, what it's driven by is population growth. How many people are moving into Colorado every year? And this is census data projected all the way out to 2030. And what we have here is a net migration in the dark purple and a natural increase in the lighter purple. And between the two of them, there's about 40 to 50,000 permanent residents moving into Colorado every year. And they just keep coming. So are we able to build enough houses for all those people? Well, 40 to 50,000 permanent new residents need about 22,000 housing units. So you can see that represented by the dashed line. And this graph represents what we're actually building for them. So we've got single family residences in the light purple, and then we've got things that we're building with the intention to be rented out as the darker purple here. And so what you can see here is right as the real estate bubble was bursting, we stopped building almost entirely. And during that time frame, we were obviously very undersupplied. And that chronic undersupply kind of built up and stayed with us, and so we've got this pent-up demand. Plus we've got 375,000 millennials living at home with their parents. And so even when we started to actually hit the number of homes that we should be doing here in about 2016, what you can see is that the ratio changed too. It used to be that we would build almost 3/4, if not more, detached single family houses for people to live in rather than building things to be rented out. And now we're building almost a majority of rentals out there. So what this data told me back when I first saw it in 2015 was that if that's really the way we're headed, I think we're going to see a neutralization of the market. We're going to see that curve that we saw at the bottom where we're starting to come out of a seller's market, but still very deeply in one. And now that we're building more rentals, the average rental appreciation I figured would come down sooner than would the single family home prices. Meaning the rates of appreciation, not actually the prices. Because again, I don't think the prices are going to drop for a while. And that's exactly what we saw. Nowadays, our rent growth is probably closer to 2%, where our prices are going up at anywhere from 3 to 5 probably this year. So buying a home just isn't affordable. This one really has to do, well, first of all, this is a new slide this year. It's becoming true. And what this graph represents, even though it looks kind of crazy, is actually you can see the annual home price increase is the purple line. The annual wage increase is the blue line, and inflation is the dotted line. So what's happening right now, and what's been happening since we've been recovering from the bubble bursting, is that the home prices are going up faster than the income is. And that has been happening for so long that, now affordability is becoming an issue. And with every passing year, it's more of an issue. Now, it used to be, I would just tell people about, really affordability has to do with how much does the money cost. And when it comes to how much the money costs to borrow, we're actually still at record low interest rates. So this is a good little thing to keep in mind, that for every 1% change in the interest rate, it will change your purchasing power by 10%. So if it goes up 1%, you can buy 10% less home. If it goes down 1%, you can buy 10% more home for the same amount of money, same monthly payment. And then here you can see a historical context. I mean, money now relatively is cheap. You can see averages across the decades there at the bottom. And I think we're sub 4s right now, which is just absolutely amazing. It's about as cheap as money can get to borrow. So check that out. And then finally, this is just another housing bubble, is another one I hear a lot. So I think for those of us that weren't necessarily thinking about housing at the time of the bubble, what we're going through right now feels a lot like the same. So what you can see here is a kind of complicated graph. It's got a dashed line, which is our population increase, and then it's got a solid line, which is our total detached single-family deals. So what you would expect in a normal market is that the number of transactions would follow the population trend line. That would be a normal market. And you can see sometimes we sell more houses than we expect for the population, and sometimes we sell a little less. And those tend to be pretty cyclic too. They tend to follow each other. But sometimes we get it right. The Goldilocks period in the 90s is a good example of that. But what you can see here is this anomaly in the graph, where this incredible spike in home transactions and purchases occurred. And what happened there, first of all, if you would like a very entertaining story about what happened there, and a true story, I would go rent the Big Short. Really, really good movie, great cast, good book too, and check it out. Otherwise, I can tell you that basically it was loose lending. So the economy was trying to create incentive for people to go out there and buy houses to, essentially stimulate the economy. And they deregulated the lending industry, meaning that there were basically no rules, and that they kind of trusted that everyone would make their own rules and it'd be fine. Two things happened. There were basically their qualifications were far too loose. There were ninja loans, no income, no job, or stated assets. You could tell them you made $200,000 and they'd give you a loan for $500,000. But then you'd think, okay, well, how would someone who maybe, let's say, earns $50,000 a year afford a $500,000 house payment? Well, the second part of it was that there were predatory lending practices in terms of the products that were offered. So a lot of what was offered were adjustable rate mortgages, or negative amortization mortgages, meaning you were literally owing more on the house with every payment you made. So you were making these tiny payments relative to the loan that you were getting, with the intention that at some point there would either be a balloon payment, or at some point you'd sell the house and release the loan. And it just basically got a lot of people into a really bad situation where they were buying way more home than they could afford. And as soon as the balloon payments hit or the rates adjusted, after 3 or 5 years, everybody turned in their home to the bank because they could not afford the payments. And when everybody does it all at the same time, we have a crisis, and we have a bubble bursting, and we slide into a recession, which is exactly what happened. So now we're in this recession, and we're starting to see the economy strengthening, and especially here in Colorado, we have a lot of people moving in. And so you can see the number of transactions is just spiking again. In fact, the slope of this line looks and feels, more importantly, a lot like the slope of this line. It's kind of a home buying frenzy. And so I think a lot of people that didn't have the context of what caused this were thinking, because it seemed a lot like the same stuff, that this was going to be the same thing, another real estate bubble. But really what matters is what happens when we get back to the number of transactions we should have been doing for the amount of people moving in. And what you can see is in the last 2 or 3 years, we've actually had kind of a stabilization of the market. And that comes through market forces, prices being one of them. Not everybody can afford a home anymore, and that's actually a good thing because it's putting the brakes on the number of transactions. It's lowering the inventory, it's raising the prices, and that's what should happen in order to keep us from getting into what we got into before. Plus, lending has been regulated, some would say over-regulated recently, and that's good. We want people to be thoroughly vetted about whether or not they can pay back their loan. So, the last thing I want to say is that none of this happened overnight, right? So I think I have some folks that think they might get into a home and then they buy it in a seller's market at the peak, and then the next year it's a buyer's market and they need to move and now they can't. Well, the truth is this graph shows our active inventory versus our sold inventory, and it illustrates two really, really important pieces of information here. So since about 2007, you can see that gap right there represents a lot of standing inventory. So that was back when it was a lot harder to sell a home. And then over time, you can see here since about 2014, 2015, these lines actually start to converge. And you can see that convergence is in the spring and early summer. What that means is every single house that hits the market sells, every single one. Then you see a gap in that fall and winter where there's kind of some breathing room. That's where, there's standing inventory and buyers have a chance. And we've been in kind of that cycle for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, what you can see if you recognize the trend is that we are starting to separate again, which is good. We need a little standing inventory. We need a little neutralization. We need to kind of swing back to where it's not just the sellers calling the shots all the time. So I'm excited about this. It means it's a more normal market coming. But still, what you can see here is it took a very long time for us to get to that extreme. It's going to take a while for us to get back to the other extreme. So if you purchase now and you do need to sell in a couple of years, you're going to be fine, right? You're not probably going to sell in a weekend like things are doing right now, but you might have a more normal transaction, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So just be prepared for that. So finally, to wrap this up, a lot of times I'm teaching this class to a series of renters, and really the thing that comes to mind is the best time to plant a tree quote. Best time to buy a home was 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. And I have found that to be true in my own personal experience. I got into real estate after doing several other things, and some of my friends had gotten in a little bit earlier who are on the team with me, and because of that they have more rentals and more passive income, and you know what? I'm playing catch up. But it's good to be on the train because it's a good place to be. So normally I teach just a bunch of renters, and with prices continuing to rise, oh man, that sucks, right? Like, it really does. Interest rates are likely to continue to rise. So at this point, they have kind of stabilized. There was a time when they were going up, so I discard that. But there's a lot of buyers competing for fewer homes in a seller's market. That's true, and it's tough. However, if you just purchase a home, if prices continue to rise, great. Your home is literally making money for you. If interest rates go up, great. You're locked into what's probably a fixed loan product, and you have a budgetable housing expense every month for the foreseeable future. You can really plan your life around it. And finally, buyers are competing for fewer homes in a seller's market, great. If your job gets moved, if something, God forbid, comes up and you need to sell your home, you're going to be able to sell your home without much issue. All right, and that is it. There's still more to learn, and basically just know this. A good agent is going to hold your hand through every step in the process, and they're going to re-explain everything you need at the time that you need it. I just like for my clients to know globally what's coming at them, so there's no big surprises. So it's broken down into 3 phases. Phase 1, I consider preparing. And if you do a good job preparing, it'll make everything else easier. Phase 2 is searching for the home that you want to purchase. And phase 3 is closing. Each one of these phases has its own kind of timeline, and it really depends on your situation. I would say the shortest amount of time that you could go from phase 1 all the way to the end of phase 2 closed on a home, I've seen it happen in 14 days from our initial meeting to the closing of the property. And I've also had some clients that I'm still working with, investors who are just looking for very particular things. And so everyone's a little bit different. All right, so within preparing, there's the buyer's consultation, which you are actually experiencing right now. So this is actually good use of time, I promise. This is also the thing that if you want to do it one-on-one, ask questions in a live environment, get a beer or a coffee with me, I'm happy to do that for free. Then there's a loan consultation, which is kind of the same thing with a lender. Again, it should be very educational. It should, really open your eyes to all the different options. And by doing both of these, the buyer's consultation and the loan consultation, you learn everything you need to know, right? So many people are, I think, timid to sit down and engage with a lender or an agent because I think either A, they think it costs something, it's all free, or B, they think it obligates them to do something. It doesn't. It just gives them information. And I think with information, once you're armed with that, then you can make a good decision, which is why the next step is to strategize. Once you know everything about the buying process and whether or not it's right for you and what you can afford, then you can make the decision about whether or not you want to head down that road. So that strategize piece is really coming together with any other purchase participants, making sure that you know exactly how you want to go about it. And I also think at that point too, really, really good to nail down your team. So you should have already had a consultation or two, if you're going to be essentially shopping lenders or agents, and by all means do. I think more power to you. I'm always happy to compete. So then after strategizing, I'd say that's the point at which you set up the search. And if you just dive right in and you're on Redfin and you click I want more information, or on Zillow I want more information, you're going to get someone who's paying to be on those sites, which isn't necessarily, I think, the best way to go. That's why I think if you do the consultations first with people that you trust or people that you know and trust have recommended to you, it's a better way to go than you can just know who you're going to for the search rather than being randomly assigned someone who couldn't build their own business. All right, once you get into the search, so you'll have a search set up on the multiple listing system, and then you'll go through with your agent and you'll view properties, and it's absolutely essential because the pictures lie, for sure. And you'll make adjustments. The first iteration of the search for me is always pretty broad, and then we narrow it down as I start to learn my client's preferences. And so over time it gets more and more dialed in until you're really at the right place. And then if the right property isn't coming up still because of the lack of inventory, then you might need to make some adjustments and maybe either raise the price at that point, or open the geography, or let go or relax one of your criteria. Finally, when you do all of that and you find a property that you enjoy and you can see yourself living in, you can see yourself owning, I would say at this point, a property that checks off 85% of your needs, then I would say we do a little value analysis of it. Because quite frankly, I'm a generalist, not a hyper-localist, meaning I couldn't tell you what every single model in this neighborhood that I live in goes for. I wait for the moment when my client determines that it's something that they can actually see themselves living in, and that's when we go home and we do our research. So we will do a full-on comparative market analysis, which is a smaller version of an appraisal done by a real estate agent, but we look at all the exact same things. And through doing that, we can kind of figure out where we think it might appraise. Now, that's not the only component of value. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then once we've got a number, we talk it over. And once you're comfortable, we put a specific number on an offer, and we submit that offer. Then, if our offer is accepted, we would drop off earnest money. Then we would do an inspection to make sure that the home is right for you. We would go through an appraisal to make sure that the home is, of the correct value, is collateral for the loan for the bank. And then finally, you go through final underwriting, which is making sure that you still make sense for the bank as a borrower. And then you close. So we're going to jump in and do some details on all of these phases and all of these steps. If you want to, you can cut out here and jump to the next video, or you can stick with us. So for preparing, strategizing is really the part where I think budgeting is huge. And then if you are currently renting, you need to look at your lease options, right? So strategizing also means if we still have 6 months on our lease and how much does it cost to break it, then when should we start looking? The truth is, look into how much it costs to break your lease. It's usually 1 month, 2 month, or the remainder of the lease to break. If it's either the first two, typically if that means the difference between looking in the fall or winter and looking in the spring or summer, that could be a $30,000 swing for the same house. So if your rent is only $1,800, then obviously break your lease if you find the right place. Occupancy plan is also another thing you should strategize on. If you are selling a place, how do you do that? How do you sell and how do you move and possession, all that? We can help you with that. The time frame for your search, any investment strategy. I mean, this is all a good time to come up with the ideal plan, and then we always want our clients to have a plan B too, so that you're never stuck, right? Because when you're stuck, that's when you start to make poor financial decisions. So if you do own, this is the order of operations. You can actually sell your home first and then purchase later. That means you liquefy your down payment right away. You have no contingency. You get to time both markets, so you can actually sell when it's ideal to sell and buy when it's ideal to buy. Now the cons are you do have to move twice and you have to have somewhere to go. You can actually purchase first before you sell. The pros are you can wait for the motivation, wait for the right home to come along. You can actually time the market again in the same way we talked about before, and you can move once. The cons here is you must have the equity, or you must qualify for the second mortgage, the second payment. So you should really know your carrying costs and pad your budgets appropriately, because you might be stuck paying two for, 30, 60 days. Just be prepared for it. And then there's concurrent, which is traditional. People are going to sell the home that they're living in to buy another home and move. And the pros are that there are low or no carrying costs. It's easier to do in a seller's market. You get to move once. Now the cons are you have a contingent offer, meaning that when you go to the marketplace as a seller who's also trying to buy, sellers of the houses that you're looking to purchase are probably not going to take you as seriously because your money's not there. In fact, your house isn't even sold yet. So the further along your contingent sale is, the more likely they'll take your offer. It's subject to the market, right? So if you're doing it when it's hard to sell, it's going to be easy to buy, and vice versa. And there's a shorter time frame. This could potentially happen in as little as 30 days if you do it in lockstep. Searching. So buying can be emotional and exhausting, and if you're still watching this, then you are definitely emotionally invested, and you're teaching yourself, which I think is great. You're being prepared, which is exactly what it says in my head. Be prepared. Let's see here. So here's some common mistakes that I've seen. Data reliability. Don't trust all the sites. A lot of them out there, such as Zillow, have really delayed information. So it might say that the house is still available, and it's not. So do not click want more information unless you want someone to be bugging you. Don't set your filters too aggressively. If you say you absolutely want 3 fireplaces and it wasn't required that the agent list how many fireplaces there were, then you could miss all the great 3 fireplace places because you required that, right? As opposed to when we first set up our searches, we do a pretty loose draft 1. And if it's too much noise or it's too much work to kind of filter through those things online, then we can start to narrow it down. The pictures do lie. They're almost always HDR, high dynamic range photography. They're almost always, wider angle lenses, and sometimes they're touched up or virtually staged. So really you have to get in the home. Signs, agents don't update them. So if you see a sign in the yard, that house is not necessarily for sale. It could be under contract or even sold or coming soon. If it's not in your search as you're driving around with your agent, it's highly likely it's not a good fit. So it's either under contract and not, marked as such, outside your price range, or one of those criterion that you decided to filter by doesn't fit. The only reason that it would have a sign and not be in your search is if it's a for sale by owner, which is that last part, the FSBO. For sale by owners are not on the multiple listing system, which is usually why they take longer to sell. And so if you do see one of those, simply take a picture of it and send it to your agent. Your agent can give that person a call and negotiate for you. So seeing through staging, this one comes with some time, but you will be able to see basically through the clutter and through everything else to see either things that they might be hiding or things, features that they're accentuating with the staging. And then here's the other thing too. Almost inevitably, your stuff will not look nearly as cute as the stager's stuff. So don't buy it because of that. Really try to look through that to see and picture your stuff in there. And things like paint, those kind of easy aesthetic things, they don't cost much. So know that if you walk into a house that's unstaged and, still has some garish colors, and then you walk into the same model that's staged with, more modern colors, and there's a $50,000 price difference, that's probably a $6,000 paint job, at max. All right, knowing what you can change and what you can't. A lot of people, especially clients of mine that are just starting, often have the goal of adding sweat equity, so putting in their time to exchange it for money and really fix a place up that needs it. But the truth is, I was in the same situation, and I thought I really wanted to find a fixer, but my wife stopped me when we found our first home, which was already fixed. I said, I don't want this one because I can't add money to it. She said, well, I know you can do these things, but will you? Like when? When will you? And I couldn't answer the question. So putting sweat equity in takes a lot of time. Figure out if that's something you really have and you have the desire to do before you buy a fixer-upper, because it's not like the montage that you see on HGTV, I promise. Will you hate living in an up-and-coming area before it's cool? Now, that's another way to build a lot of equity in your home quickly, is to buy in a place that, the prices are going up very, very quickly. But to live on the urban edge means you're living on the urban edge. So if it's someplace that you drive by at night, you don't want to get out of your car, you probably don't want to live there. I mean, quite frankly, might be good as an investment property later, for sure. But if you're actually living there, live someplace you're comfortable. I mean, it's going to be all about your quality of life. And finally, cream puffs, which we describe as the houses that are in great condition, great location, great price. They sell really, really quickly in any market. So don't delay if there's something you really, really love and that's just, you're head over heels for. Don't say, oh, let's see it on the weekend. Call your agent, text your agent right then and let them know, and they'll figure out a good plan of attack. How to adjust. So when you're going through your search and things just aren't kind of, clicking, what do you do? So, like I said, I really do think that you should consider anything that meets about 85% of your criteria. And if you aren't finding those, then you might have to loosen some of your criteria. If you're going to overpay for something, if you're in a rising market, overpaying is really just a matter of time. So if you are going up by 6% per year and you overpay by 3%, that's only 6 months that you're behind. In that half a year, you'll basically be caught up. So reframe overpaying if you have to do it, and know the home is probably not your final resting place. It's very likely a stepping stone, so treat it as such. It's a good fit for now. Some off-market strategies if you're in a really low inventory environment where there's nothing really for sale. You can write neighborhood letters, a letter to all the different neighborhoods where the median home price makes sense and has a lot of models that really make sense for you, and see if you can find someone who's been thinking about selling. I've done that for many of my clients. I found you do have to write about 300 letters to get a response or two. So it takes a little bit of time, but I like to do that for my clients specifically, and you can do it on your own if you're working with an agent that's not willing to do that. Talk about your search. Talk about it with anybody and everybody you can, because quite frankly, you never know where it's going to come from. We bought our first house when my wife was complaining about the home search with her coworker, who was complaining about the home sale process. And we put it together, it was great. So please, please, please talk about your search. Specifically for us, we are always asking for referrals. That's the way we run most of our business. It's 85% referrals. So we ask. We ask you to talk about it for your own benefit and, for those people that we might be able to serve as well. And finally, pocket listings. Anytime you can find a large brokerage or large team, we do have 30 members on our team and 750 plus in our brokerage. There's always intra-office communication where we can just reach out and say, does anybody have this or this coming up? And you might be able to get it before it hits market. Finally, creative financing. If you're running into some troubles there, financial assistance is available. There are subsidies, and we also do a referral program as well. Moving on. Oops. Determining the value, we talked about this a little bit, but it's not just so first of all, a home is worth what a buyer is willing to pay and what a seller is willing to sell it for, right? That's the true definition of the value. But there's really these four components of value. The listing price being kind of just a jumping off point, a good starting point, but doesn't necessarily always wind up there, especially depending on the time of year. The second price, that value concept, I would say, is what it will appraise for. And that's what we do the comparative market analysis, the CMA, to determine, right? So we look at all the data that the appraiser would look at and try to figure out where it'll appraise. Now, appraisal is a little bit more of an art than it is a science, which means that two different appraisers could bring in two different values and they can be pretty drastically different. But we can get to a pretty close range to say, is this house priced right or overpriced? And it's a very consequential price, because if you're leveraged to the degree that you're bringing 5% of a down payment, then they'll only give you 95% of what it appraises for, regardless of where you offer. Now, competing offers, that's the next highest value. And we can only learn that as agents if the other agents tell us, which not all of them do. So I've learned some Jedi mind tricks over the years on how to kind of get those, numbers out of them, or getting really, really close. But then once you learn that number, that is now the most consequential price, because that's the one you have to beat in order to get the home. But it's still not the most consequential price. The most consequential price is your maximum, right? So if you were to be outbid in a bidding war by $1,000, could you sleep that night? If the answer is no, then it's probably worth at least $1,000 more to you, right? So ask yourself those questions. We'll collect that information there in the middle, and with all four of these kind of value concepts, we'll come up with an offer price that you feel comfortable with, and then we'll sign an offer and we'll submit it, right? So when you build a winning offer, really what you're trying to do is first of all, there's a lot of different ways to manipulate the contract to buy and sell here in Colorado, even though it's a fill-in-the-blank contract. Little tactical advantage that can be given on any of the 18 pages of legalese. So it's good to know exactly what you're doing when you're filling out the contract, and working with an agent will definitely ensure that. And then really what you're trying to do, the name of the game, is to learn all your sellers' fears. And if you can answer any of their fears without throwing more money at them, that's how you build a competitive offer, again, without overpaying. So you can mess with things like the price, obviously. There are things like escalation clauses. You can mess with the timeline, the objection and resolution timelines, inspection limitations, saying you're going to take the home essentially as is. You can guarantee the appraisal to the degree that you're financially able. You can change up the fee structure a little bit, any post-closing occupancies. So you can also give your seller of the home you're trying to purchase time to live in their own home after you own it and rent it back from you while they find their new home. And finally, contingencies. So if you do have to sell to buy, that's something that it can be difficult to deal with. So if there's a way you can release your contingency, that will make you more competitive. All right, moving on to closing. Almost done. Once you are under contract, the first thing that's going to be due within at least 72 hours is earnest money. Earnest money is a buyer's skin in the game, essentially. It's typically 1% of the purchase price that is due about 48 to 72 hours after you've under contract. It's just a personal check that you bring to the title company, and they cash it and they hold it in escrow while you determine whether or not you want the home still. For the next 30 days or so, you're going to be doing all these different investigations, and if at the end of it, these are the two questions I get asked the most. If at the end of it, you don't want the home, is it refundable? And the answer is yes. With a great realtor, your earnest money is almost 100% refundable up until your loan. It's actually now called the new loan termination deadline for Colorado's contract. If you don't want the home, you will get it back. but you will have invested your inspection costs to investigate the home, right? We talked a little bit about that $600 to $700 that you don't get back. You pay that person to do their job. Then what if you do close? Well, if you close, it's actually part of your down payment. So let's say you were planning on bringing 5% as a down payment. Then if you put 1% into your earnest money, when you come bring your cash to close, you're going to pay 4% of the purchase price plus your closing costs that you discussed with your lender. Make sense? All right, inspection. A little bit more about the inspection process. Basically, you're gonna hire the inspector. They're gonna go out there and do their job. We try to get all this information done within the first week, and it's gonna, I promise you, even a new build is gonna be, 50, 60 pages long, the report. It's gonna make it seem like the home's falling down, and that's what you want. You want them to be thorough, but don't be too alarmed by it, right? Be cautious, but don't get scared off, because every home's gonna have just a huge book. You want a thorough inspector. Some big things, anything health and safety related, most oftentimes, even in the seller's market, the sellers are going to correct those. But they don't have to. There's only one thing that they legally have to do, and that's carbon monoxide alarms. Everything else is kind of up to them. There are some very common things such as, clean service and certification, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Doing a radon test is probably really important thing to do. That's about $150. You can do a roof inspection, and then some big heavy hitters. Basically, these are things that as we're walking through prior to ever putting an offer in, since I flipped homes, if I see them, I'm trying to save my clients money. So if I see that there's foundation issues, if I see that the whole electrical has been recalled, if I see that the roof is torn up or the windows all need to be replaced, like those are all really heavy hitters, and likely if they're priced, in the market and they're not considering that in the price, then it's probably not the best path to go down anyway. Let someone else take that lemon. And then finally, you will do the initial inspections. However, let's say the first inspector says, oh, there's a bunch of electrical work that needs to be done. Well, if it needs to be investigated before the work is completed, then you would actually put the ownership of the secondary inspection on the seller through the inspection resolution. You simply say, seller will have licensed electrician investigate or diagnose and repair or replace as necessary X, Y, and Z. So a lot of the secondary inspections that might cost even more money can be paid for by the seller. Then when you get to resolution, you have a couple different options. The seller can repair if they have the money, the things that you need them to repair. They can also give you money at closing for you to do the repairs, and that's called seller concession. They can lower the price as well, but that's not the same as keeping the money in your pocket, right? So when they lower the price, it simply lowers your payment, but your down payment plus your closing costs are going to be so similar that you won't really have a lot of extra money in your pocket. The seller concessions is the way to go if you want to keep the money in your pocket to do the repairs. And then finally, if the seller doesn't have the money and you don't want to do concessions, or you've maxed out your concessions, or you don't want to do price, you can do repair escrows as long as your lender approves it, which means when you close, the proceeds will be, some of the proceeds will be kept, usually about 150 to 200% of whatever the job is that's necessary. So if it's replacing the roof for $15,000, they might hold on to 20 or 25, and then they will have the roofer go out there and do the roof repair after you own it, and then they will essentially pay the roofer out of the escrow from title, and then whatever's extra goes back to the seller. That's a repair escrow. This is a pretty tricky negotiation, but it's good that we have so many options for resolution, because quite frankly, that gives us a lot of ways to really work that negotiation into your benefit. And after that, we do appraisal. So once the inspection is taken care of, we do that in the first week. The appraisal usually comes between week 2 and 3, and the appraiser is engaged. So the appraisal is paid for by the buyer. The appraiser, him or herself, is engaged by the lender, and they cannot be chosen. They have to be completely at random so that there can't be a bias. So the appraiser will pick up a bid, and they will go out to the house and they will do a site visit. And then after the site visit, they will do a calculation. They'll do a comparative market analysis similar to what we did, only a little bit more in depth, and they will determine how much the home is worth. So for sellers, you basically have to sell the home twice, once to the buyer and once to the appraiser. For a buyer and a buyer's agent, you can't actually talk to the appraiser at all. You can't have any contact with them, so you cannot influence that number whatsoever. If basically we as agents work in a collaborative manner to support the needs of our clients, which in this case we both want a higher appraisal, so the listing agent should be doing what they can do to support the appraisal and the appraiser with any data that they don't have, if that makes sense. If there are not many good comparable properties, it can be really difficult for an appraiser to do their job. They might have to make adjustments in time or in size or a few other things. But yeah, basically the appraisal will happen. And if it comes in low, which 25% of sales at some times of the year, not all times of the year, do not appraise. You might want to have pre-negotiated that in your offer about like what you would do as a buyer. Like I'll pay $1,000 over whatever appraise is at, or you might just have to negotiate it at the time, or you might have to start over if there's too big a gap there. Some resolution options for appraisal are you can do a price reduction. So if the appraiser says it's not worth that much, the seller doesn't have to lower the price, but in order to move forward with that buyer, if that buyer can't bring additional money, they can reduce the price. The buyer can bring cash over the appraised value. So if it was appraised lower, but the buyer brings more cash to pay to the seller, it doesn't go to anything for them. It's not a part of their equity, it's not a part of their down payment. It's going straight to the seller to pay the difference. And then you can also challenge the appraisal, meaning that you can say, we think that it was materially incorrect. There's some sort of fact that's missing here, and you can challenge some appraisals. It has to be materially flawed. So that is about it for appraisals. And then you go into final underwriting. So now the house makes sense for you in the condition. The loan makes sense, the house makes sense as collateral in terms of its price, and you still need to make sense for the lender. So final underwriting is just them checking one more time pretty much everything they've already checked to make sure you're still a good borrower. And they'll get your homeowner's insurance, they'll get your verification of employment again, pay stubs, bank statements. They will do another credit check at this point, and they'll ask for a bunch of letters of explanation, meaning like if a bunch of money came in and they didn't know about it, they want to know, why did that money come in, or why did that money go away? So you do want to receive your clear to close from your lender prior to your loan objection or new loan termination deadline. If you don't do that, that's usually the final step in final underwriting, is that you get a clear to close saying you're fully approved. If you don't get that by your new loan termination deadline, you need to extend the deadline or your earnest money is at risk. That is very important. Then you get ready to close. You go ahead and you see a closing disclosure, which will be all of your facts and figures, all of your figures outlined for you. You get to do a final walkthrough, and you'll get that 3 days prior to closing. You'll get to do a final walkthrough of the home to make sure that any of the repairs that you agreed upon are done to your satisfaction, and that it was vacant for 30 or 45 days, that nobody squatted in it or anything like that. If it's still occupied and they're going to live there and rent it back for a little bit, then I would suggest taking some pictures, and you're going to gather all the necessary documents for closing. There's not a whole lot. You just need a check, you need some identification, and we'll tell you everything you need. So the one caution here is that wire fraud is on the rise, so you would never see an email asking you to send money to anywhere without a double or triple verification from the title company, so just be aware. And then yay! Oh wait, I have something for this. Wow. Then you go to closing. Yay! That's it. That's the process.
Here are some more examples of homes the iMPACT team has sold at and over asking price for our clients. Videos definitely help sell homes.
Welcome to 8900 Juliet. Come on in. Lots of natural light and open concept floor plan make it perfect for relaxing and entertaining. A new bedroom has been added downstairs as well. The home has been updated throughout, and you will love the renovated kitchen. New floors, countertops, and a wall has been removed to increase the open concept and usability. It's located on a corner lot with a private backyard. This is why we live in Colorado. So come check this house out for yourself. You can reach me, Dan Fortune, at this number, and we'll get you a tour. This home is its own paradise, located at the end of a quiet and private cul-de-sac and adjacent to open space in the West Creek Meadows. Welcome to Ames Court, come on in. The gourmet kitchen has pro stainless steel appliances, granite throughout, a large island, walk-in pantry, and opens nicely to the family room. French doors open to the spacious master bedroom and the 5-piece en-suite bath. The backyard is immaculate with its extended concrete patio for relaxing and entertaining. The yard wraps around the entire property and borders open space. There is also a fantastic area to hang out in the front under the covered porch as well. Enormous trees provide ample shade and privacy, and if you lack a green thumb, that's totally okay because it's maintenance free and it has a drip irrigation and a sprinkler system. The 3-car garage has tons of room for cars, toys, and storage. So if you have any questions or want to see this home for yourself, give me a call at the number right here. I promise I'll get back with you. This is exactly why we live in Colorado. This home is a perfect paradise located on a quiet street. It backs to open space and is across from the recreation area in the Hamptons. Welcome to 116th Court, come on in. The formal dining room opens nicely to the large gourmet kitchen with stainless steel appliances, granite throughout, a bar, and an eat-in kitchen with a beautiful bay window. Custom cabinets with pull-out shelving are a nice added bonus. The kitchen flows into the family room with a gas fireplace, lots of natural light, and windows opening to the backyard and open space. Upstairs, you'll find an oversized loft and 3 terrific bedrooms. You have a large master bedroom with a walk-in closet and 5-piece en-suite bath. There's a massive unfinished basement with rough-in and radon system that's ready for you to make it your own. The backyard is one of the largest in the neighborhood and backs to open space. Your stamped concrete patio is great for relaxing and entertaining on any Colorado evening. Let us know what you think about this home by commenting below. So if you have any questions, give me a call at this number right here and I'll be sure I get back with you. With so much to love about this house, come check it out for yourself. This is exactly why we live in Colorado. This stunning 2-bedroom townhome is in the desirable Boyd Pond subdivision with Table Mountain views. Welcome to West 63rd Lane, come on in. The main level has beautiful hardwood flooring with a wide open floor plan that is perfect for relaxing and entertaining. The living room has a wonderful gas log fireplace and built-in media storage. The gourmet kitchen boasts upgraded Whirlpool stainless steel appliances and a gas cooktop to get into your master chef mood. And the bonus eat-in kitchen space is a perfect place to enjoy the fabulous meals you've made. The upper level has a spacious master bedroom with a walk-in closet and a private bathroom with dual sinks and granite countertops. A second bedroom is spacious as well. Laundry is a cinch since it's conveniently located on the same floor between your 2 bedrooms. So if you have any questions or want to come see this property for yourself, give me a call at this number right here. I'll make sure I get back with you. There are very few properties with this quality at this price point, so come check it out for yourself. This might be your next Colorado home.
Making money is great, but what about having a life? Well, being on a great team means you have agents who can cover for you while you take the day off, or if you decide to travel around the world for a year. Here are some videos showing life away from real estate, but not completely separated from real estate because they were funded by it.
Architecture, culture, there are so many things that are uniquely amazing about Singapore. Okay, so this city is sectioned out into very specific areas.
So
So we started out in Little India, and we had some pretty special visitors that we were anticipating.
So exciting. Why is this exciting?
Nan and Papa are here.
You can go see Nan and Papa? You excited?
I missed you.
I'm Nana.
I'm Papa here with Avery and Fortunes. We're in Singapore. We traveled 23 hours to get here.
So as a family, we set out to explore more of Singapore.
Anyone that's visiting Singapore City, Marina Bay Sands is probably going to be at the top of your list, and it's definitely there for a reason. It is a really cool place to visit and see. The architecture is phenomenal.
Even if you're not staying there, it's really cool to just go check out, and you can take an elevator to the top and go on the observation deck and see out around the whole city and across the gardens of the bay. So both sides, you've got great views. And from Marina Bay Sands, it's a really quick walk over to Gardens of the Bay. So we set out over there right afterwards.
In the Gardens by the Bay, there's tons of different options that you can pay for and go to see. We chose to do some that was highly recommended, the Cloud Forest, and it was one of our top experiences so far on this trip. It was
really cool.
It was really cool.
The Cloud Forest is this really big glass structure full of all these exotic plants. And right when you walk in, it's really cool because there's this huge waterfall right in front of you. And it's like this mountain inside. And so the walkway kind of spirals up around the mountain, and you just get to see different views of the city since the whole place is glass. And you also get to see all these amazing plants that you've probably never seen in your life. One of our favorites were these little tiny orchids that were seriously so tiny. And you could only see them through a magnifying glass. So they have these magnifying glasses set up so you could see them. And I love orchids, so that was really fun. So finishing out a day back in the Gardens by the Bay is an absolute must. I think this is probably one of the most popular things to do in the city of Singapore because they have the light shows and the trees, which they call the Super Tree Grove. You've seen them before in pictures, and they are just as amazing, if not more, in person as they are in pictures.
One thing that's cool about the city as well is that there's a lot of modern architecture that's all built up around kind of the old. So you have skyscrapers next to these, 1 and 2 story buildings that have been preserved, and it's really unique. If you like architecture, it's fun to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say one of our favorite experiences of the whole thing actually was doing the Art Science Museum.
For sure. It was really fun. First of all, even when you just step in through the doors of this lotus-looking building, there's a coffee shop and a bunch of kids' books, just kind of reading and drinking smoothies. And then we entered into the museum part, which has a lot of different options for you. We chose to do Future World, which was an exhibit that was full of
the future.
The future, I guess. It's a lot of lights and
future stuff.
A lot of lights. I don't know how to describe Future World.
So well done. I don't either, so we'll just show it to you.
Yeah.
This week we are in Dubai, which is absolutely incredible. It's been full of firsts and biggests and most. Our minds are blown, which is why we're gonna save our Dubai video for next week so that we can give you the full week in one video. So this week we're gonna do things a little bit differently.
First off, we're a little bit quiet because we've got a sleeper back there.
You gotta do what you gotta do. We are going to dive into top 10 things that we packed for 1 year abroad as a family. Okay, so keep in mind our restrictions. Yeah.
It's the weight restrictions that really get you.
So these budget airlines, the tickets are cheap, but they charge you out the wazoo for bags. So we kept it to 2 roller bags and 2 backpacks and our stroller. The roller bags we have to keep under 40 pounds, and that's the lowest weight restriction we've run into so far with all the flights that we've gone on. Before we left, we did a few sessions of practice packing.
So here we are, all packed up. Practice pack.
Mine is 47 and his is 36 pounds.
And I am the self-proclaimed queen of packing.
She's so good. Oh my God.
I can pack so many clothes into the tiniest of bags so that I have variety for my trip.
It's unreal.
So I was just confident going into this, like, yeah, 1 year I could do this. Oh man.
It was tough.
It was disheartening. So we had to prioritize, and I found that medication and being prepared, especially with a 2-year-old in another country, was more important than my extra pair of shoes. So I had to leave that behind.
And I had an awesome small keyboard for learning piano and practicing. That got left too. There was no way that was coming with us. It was so sad.
You tried.
I tried.
You did try. So many of our practice sessions were well over 40 pounds. So we had to just keep taking out.
Too heavy.
Until we were about at 41. Then we were okay. The Ziploc bags. They're incredible. You can just lay your clothes in there flat, roll it, and all the air just goes away. So you don't need any tools, and it consolidates your packing tremendously.
Yeah, see, the other thing too is it organizes everything. That is, I think, one of the biggest things about traveling is having things organized, because if you're moving along consistently, you're packing and unpacking, packing and unpacking, and having stuff in bags and knowing exactly what's in each bag makes it so much easier.
He's big on organizing. I just throw everything in them. That's what wrinkle releaser spray is for.
So she convinced me that bringing a yoga mat was a good idea because 1, we don't want to be sitting and laying on the floor, and 2, it's nice to have some sort of kind of space that's yours to meditate and to stretch and do yoga. And I thought she was out of her mind, but she said that she wanted to be the item that she kind of was her splurge item to pack, and it was a genius decision.
Yeah.
We use it basically every single day. I say we because I get it out all the time as well.
Yeah, and Avery plays on it. We can throw it in the washing machine. The thing folds up really small. It is 2 pounds, which is really, really heavy in the packing world, unfortunately.
Anyway, that's actually kind of a weird item that we've found to be really useful and something we pull out every single day.
We're really happy we brought it.
Yeah.
So Lush solid hair products are amazing. One of our friends recommended this for traveling, just because you can't take that many liquids, and there were already so many liquids we were bringing with us, like sunscreen and different things like that. So Lush hair products are solid. They suds up. Suds. Lots of sudsing going on with those, which actually probably doesn't make a difference, but it makes me feel like it's actually working really well as a shampoo. The more sudsing, the better.
More sudsing, the better.
And mine smells like lemon. It's amazing. And then the conditioner is also a bar, and they're so so low weight, so easy to bring to go that fast. But we washed our hair so many times on this trip so far, and it still seems like it's the same size as when we bought it. So it's gonna last
you
a
see it in
long
the
time.
video.
We'll see if it lasts the whole year.
We've had it for 3 months, and I think it will last us the whole year. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so the Goal Zero Charger lightweight, picked it up at REI, and I love it. I've had other chargers in the past. This one's been like absolutely terrific as far as the amount of battery life that it gets, how quickly it charges, and then I just really love the fact that it's super small. It's right here actually. So it's super thin. It's more like, you know, sliding a book in your book bag. This is your supercharger, and for the stuff that we've got between gimbals and iPads and iPhones and lights and all that crazy stuff. The only thing that it doesn't charge up is our computers. Everything else that we have, this will charge it up.
Why don't you continue right on to the next one?
So the Slimline adapter is like the best adapter that we've found. This is by far the best. A few different reasons. One is it's got 4 USB ports, which is a lot more than most chargers have. So this has 4 of them. It's multi-use as far as all the adapters that can basically go into any wall that you need anywhere around the world. What I really love is that it lights up. So when you have the adapters in, or when you're charging, you know that your devices are charging. So that's great. The other thing, and I thought this was kind of stupid when we actually first bought it, is it comes with this little bag. And I almost threw it out or left it and didn't bring it with us.
Dan's really big on homes for things.
It's true. That's true.
If an item has a home, he's very happy about it.
It actually has become necessary because when we were in Dublin, we left one of our chargers. That's no good, right? So the cool thing about
I left it.
That's fine. The cool thing is that this little bag, I have it in with where all my other stuff is. So when we're getting ready to go and I'm packing up, every time I see that little bag, I know that that wall adapter is still stuck in the wall somewhere. So, and it's actually saved us twice on this trip. 2 times, I think if that bag hadn't been in there that it goes in, I would actually left it in the wall, back behind the bed in one of our hotels.
Yay for little homes.
Yay for little homes.
Okay. This one's for the ladies, so guys, maybe cover your ears or close your eyes, whatever. I'm gonna talk about the Diva Cup because this was a life changer for me. Again, one of my girlfriends recommended this to me for traveling, and it's changed my traveling experience, honestly. First of all, who wants to carry around giant packs of tampons? Nobody. This thing you reuse over and over again. You can wear it for 12 hours at a time and you don't even feel it in there. It's crazy. It packs up super small, it's weightless.
I think we decided not to actually show it to you, we just showed you the bag, right?
Yeah, I won't show you my Diva Cup. It's awesome. I really, really recommend this for traveling, if not for your daily life at home.
The next thing that we have is the scale, which is absolutely worth its weight in gold. We use it every single time that we're gonna hop on an airplane because, you know, we have things like, okay, we bought some more diapers, and so our weight is changing all the time in our bags. Not fluctuating a lot, but since we are right there on the razor's edge with our bags, every single time we weigh them.
Yeah, we highly recommend getting a scale. I mean, there's so many out there. We don't have one we necessarily recommend, except if you're going to if you're going out of the country, then probably get one that's in pounds and kilograms. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, ours just has a little button where you can switch back and forth. So we're not necessarily advocating for our particular scale. There's probably one out there that weighs less and is better. Actually, we didn't search. We got this as a gift. And when I got it as a gift, I was like, I don't know what I would do with that. That was probably 4 years ago.
No, it's our lifesaver.
Yeah, I mean, it's
our money saver.
Money saver, yeah. Okay, so this one we almost didn't buy, and it would have been, she's kind of waking up. So this one would have been a huge mistake. Rachel convinced me, and I'm so glad that she did. The GoPro Hero 7, because I had the 5 and I just didn't hardly use it because it was so jittery, and I ended up just using my phone, and I just didn't find it was that useful to bring around. The 7 has a gimbal in it, basically, that it eliminates the shake, and you can run around and do tons of stuff with this thing, to the point that I have a gimbal, brought it with me, and not going to use. I don't even use it. So
The GoPro 7 does so well.
It does so well. I know it's not the perfect depth of field and all of that, but for what we're using, for probably what most of you would use for capturing your family videos and putting stuff out like that, it's phenomenal. So would highly recommend the GoPro Hero 7, and they just, I think, reduced the price. So if you want to check out our site, you can link to it from there. It really is a fantastic device, and it's a lot of fun to use. It's bomb-proof, so even Avery can use it. So the next one that we have is Ably, and it's just a brand that Rachel, I think, found on Facebook.
Oh, I'm such a sucker for Facebook ads.
She is a sucker for Facebook.
Yeah,
And so a couple of years ago, or a year ago or something, she bought me a shirt, and I was like, yeah, okay. I ended up using it when I ran in a 200-mile relay race, and I wore it for 2 of the 3 days of the relay race, and it didn't smell afterwards.
And he comes back to the hotel after the race, and he's all, smell me. I'm like, no.
It's a phenomenal shirt because the rest of my stuff smelled.
But it didn't smell.
Smelled terrible.
It did not smell.
So anyway, before this trip, Rachel bought me 4 shirts. So I have 5 Ably shirts and a few other things, but I basically wear Ably every single day. That's what I have on right now.
It's really, I mean, the product that we probably talk to people about the most, just because that's changed the way we pack for traveling.
I mean, I could wear it for 3 or 4 days. I don't normally wear the same shirt 4 days in a row. What I normally do is I'll wear it a day, then I'll wear the next shirt, then the next shirt, and I kind of rotate through them, kind of like I do dress shoes. And so they last for a really long time. So basically it cut down what I pack like in half.
It's liquid repellent, so you spill coffee on it or wine.
Yeah, you can check out our test right here.
Yeah, it just comes right off.
It's legit. It really is legit. And I thought it was going to kind of be gimmicky. It's not. So highly, highly recommend checking them out. They're in our link as well. Really good folks.
This last one is, and it's not really a packing thing. It's our Zoe stroller.
Just did some research on what was out there, and we found the Zoe stroller, and I will tell you, they are absolutely phenomenal. They don't sponsor us or haven't yet. Maybe they will one day. We've probably had 10 or 15 of our friends buy the stroller from seeing ours. It compresses so small, and it comes with a little backpack. It fits into overhead.
On most airlines.
And then you've got it, you can take your kid all the way to the gate in their stroller, smash it up, put it in your overhead, pull it back out. And it's been a game changer for us. We really like it, and we end up taking Avery all over the place in the stroller, when if we didn't have that stroller, we probably would just strap Avery to us or something like that instead of taking a stroller. So it's just been great, and we've had it for like over a year now. So it's been all over the world, even before we started traveling on this trip.
Yeah, it's holding up awesome.
And it's held up great.
The difference too with the umbrella stroller and this is it can lay down fully, so she can just take naps in there, and the canopy goes all the way over, so there's not a lot of light coming in, so it's great. It's a really good stroller.
Yeah,
and it's 12 pounds. Yeah. We love Zoe's stroller.
So that's what we have for all of you this week. Thanks so much for joining us again. Next week you're gonna get to see Dubai, which is blowing our minds.
Oh my gosh, not even kidding. It's so cool here.
So we can't wait to see you next week.
So thanks for watching, and we sure hope you enjoyed every minute of this impact video. Here's to you and your real estate success.